accountant, yeah, that's it. No. And then you end up being pushed into something, and then you realize later on it's not your actual passion, it's your dad's, right? So again, it's where the twist that I'm talking about on this is that even though you're probably studied and do a job that you're not enjoying to a fact, what you could do in order to kind of help that well-being, as you hear the stats here, it's high, in especially where they blame work on that, is where you could actually outside try to do something that you are now passionate about, whether that be taking on a hobby, baking, all these kind of stuff. I'm just saying that for possibly ladies and guys who likes to bake. That's just an example. But there's things that you might be passionate about that you can actually do to kind of help balance that. Because once you don't like it at work, you come home and you kind of use certain things to de-stress, yeah? So we could find things that we're passionate about. I know Daniel likes to model, so when he finishes work at the GP, he just goes and he does his little shoots and all that, and then he's happy after that, yeah? So it's a good way to de-stress.
Next slide, please.
Right. Okay, so what is well-being? What is well-being? I think we're meant to do the slide when you don't see the definition up there, and then we get you to answer. But it's what it is. What is well-being? Let's hear from you first. But we want to hear it in your words. What is well-being to you? Well-being. It's not just mental health now. She's itching. She's like, yeah, I want to get in there. It was like, take it off. Yeah, that's it. I love it. Nice one. What is well-being? What is it? Well-being. What is well-being? When it says you're well, what does that mean? Love it. How you function.
Yeah, I think well-being as well gives you something that is a positive thing. Whereas I think you can have poor well-being and good well-being. So it's basically just how you function, how you think, how you feel. It's a combination of your core, who you are, and it feeds into a lot of things, and it feeds from a lot of things. So like your environment, your beliefs. It's a whole Pandora's box of stuff.
A whole world which we haven't explored before. So well-being. Anybody else want to have a quick go at that?
I've played. To explain it in my terms, I'm just rearranging the words of well-being. So well-being to me is being well within yourself. Yes. So that could stem from multiple things, from physical to mental and emotionally. It could be spiritual as well. Spiritual is very important to Christians. Just being well within oneself.
I like that. I like the short answer. That is a real good sort of having that answer, as in being well within yourself. Well-being. Yes, having that. Anyone else? Come on. You could, yes, I see itchy eyes around here. Come on. Let me pick on you now. Come on. Well-being. What do you think? All right.
I think, to echo what Daniel said, I hate mice. It's like echoing what Daniel said. I would basically say it's everything, your environment, your daily life. It's just your wellness of oneself. So being well within oneself and what you do to make oneself be well. So if it's a hobby, if it's physical activity like exercise, if it's just cooking, whatever it is. And again, in regards to your environment, your friend circle, your workplace, just your home, making it be well, making your environment, your surrounding be well for your being.
So internal and external happiness, would we say? Oh, we got one more person.
On the chat. There's someone on the chat.
Oh, someone on the chat, sorry.
Yeah.
Right, someone on the chat said, well-being for me is acknowledging how you feel, identifying the triggers, doing something you enjoy which relaxes you, and being well within yourself.
Yes. I like that, actually, to be a fair fact. And I'll tell you why I like that, is that the person said that is actually realizing your triggers. Because having good well-being is knowing how to balance And I think with the little exercise we were meant to do before, which we will probably explore in a bit, but it's recognizing your triggers. Because once you start to recognize your trigger, you actually say, you know what? I understand what makes me upset. I understand what makes me cry. I understand what makes me stress, be anxious and all these kind of stuff. So once you realize it, then you actually start to try to do something about it. Does that make any sense? So that's very important. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I think Shanika had...
You said about recognizing. I think recognizing is important, but acceptance is the main key word, because you can recognize triggers that, oh, if Junior look at me that way, I get upset. But am I accepting that I have an issue with Junior looking at me? So acceptance is the key in recognizing.
We're going deep now.
Yeah,
Jesus.
recognizing.
Junior, don't look at me.
That's just an example.
But that's pretty good. Acceptance. That's another key, is accepting that there's something wrong, and actually trying to get help or doing something about it. Yeah. So because of time, we'll skip on.
So I think we didn't need to go through the definition. I think you guys did that quite well. So this is just the dimension of well-being, which everyone has kind of alluded to. Obviously, all of this factor into your well-being, and just to be aware. You've got your emotional, finance, social, occupational. We talked about work, spiritual. Someone said intellectual, environment, and intellectuals comes with that, and the acceptance as well. So you can know something, but to accept it and know environment you're in, and physical health as well, that contributes.
So let's do real quick around the room, someone to tell me physical, emotional, financial, social, what is good well-being, kind of like through those quickly. You could choose any one of those, but don't choose the same one that someone else choose. Spiritual.
Spiritual well-being.
Prayer. Yes, I like it. Prayer. Pray. Physical.
Exercise and eating well.
Exercise and eating well. So your hands up there.
Intellectual, doing things like reading, studying, just engaging in great conversations with positive people.
Yep.
There you go. Next.
Absolutely.
Financial, treating yourself to nice things.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like that.
here we go.
that,
Someone wants a holiday soon. Listen out. Wait, Louis Vuitton.
Environmental could be like cleaning up your room, cleaning up your house.
No, seriously, yeah.
No,
Seriously,
it's-
no,
it's-
seriously.
It's actually a sign of depression as well.
Yeah,
Someone's
yeah.
room is
Yeah.
messy.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Cleaning up your room, basically. Anyone else? Did we do all of them?
I think we did.
Emotional? I think we didn't do emotional. We haven't done occupational. We haven't done emotional.
Go on.
And
Occupational.
social.
Yeah.
Occupational,
Absolutely.
finding a job, that job satisfaction. Emotional.
For emotional, I'll say be around positive and energetic, uplifting people and situation.
Yeah, like me.
Okay.
Be around me.
I'll say emotional.
She's like, well,
Emotional, I'll say about relationships as well. Having healthy, good relationships, whether that is family, friends, partner. It's just having that healthy relationships.
indeed.
Emotional.
And also, even the sense may be, I'll call it physical, is that just having a laugh, watching a funny video, that, trust me, that makes, it takes a lot.
So I was going to say finance, being content with what you have.
Ooh.
Being content with what you have.
I could have a bit more. But it's true. It is true. Being content.
Yeah.
Being content. Thank you,
Okay.
Vince. Yes. Okay.
Next one. So, yeah.
Here we go. So we're looking at this graph. We got a little speedy. You could see at the top. It's like a sort of
A check-in meter,
yes,
How's
feeling
everyone
good,
doing? Feeling
doing
good.
okay,
Yep.
struggling, really not okay. Which I love it because it goes in red. So it's like a traffic light going straight down, right? Feeling good, doing okay, struggling, really not okay. And I guess you could see from a little bit of the bar chart, and I think we've gone through bar chart. I mean, the little picture downstairs, we've gone through quite a bit of it already. So it's not like we're going to go through all of it, but we're just saying on the sense of feeling good, we could say at a scale today, how much it feel good to be here? I'm feeling good to be
feeling
here.
good?
Of course we are.
Everyone just doing okay? Anyone just doing okay? Yep.
Just doing okay. Yeah, I like it.
Okay. Anyone struggling? They feel they're
Struggling.
struggling.
But let me just say this, because once we ask this, you might be thinking, is it talking about here? I am here. Am I struggling to be here? No. What it is you're feeling good to be here because I've asked you specifically for here. But on the other note, it's all about, what about in your life? What's the balance in your life at the moment? Are you feeling good? Are you doing okay in what is going on in your life? Are you struggling a little bit? Or it's not happening for you and you just can't really cope? This is the things that we want to be able to look and explore today. All right?
I must admit, I was struggling this week. I had tons of stuff to do.
She did.
So, as well as work issues, studying, organizing, it was just, I have to say I did struggle this week.
She did, and then that makes me jump from feeling good to down to doing okay. Well, that's my wife, by the way. Sorry if I didn't introduce her, right? So when she's struggling, you could see, it might seem like a joke, but it does have an adverse effect. So when she's struggling, and I'm coming out the and she's going like, mate, could you cook, please? Because the little miss needs food, and I'm tired, and okay, all right. So now then it transformed to be doing okay, if you know what I mean. It's just an example. But it can have an adverse effect of how a spouse or a person, when they come home, it could bring the feeling good to any one of those. Yes? So we have to be mindful of that as well.
Yes.
Sorry, I got a question. Sorry. Looking at your chart, how important is it to be real to yourself? I mean, these are some good questions that one has to ask themselves. So how important is it for one to be truthful to themselves?
So repeat the question.
So how important is it for someone to be true to themselves? So, for example, if they come back home from work, from having been stressed, whatever, how important is it to be real, to take that exercise, to really check in themselves, to see how they're feeling? Because, you know, some people, they like to be positive. Even though they're feeling down, they're like, no, I'm not feeling down. I'm up, I'm high. But how is it important for you to be real to yourself?
That's a really good question. I think we got our doctor here today. She's turned up today.
Sorry, doctor, you've been put on the spot.
Yeah, no, Precious. My name is Precious.
Precious.
Yeah.
Dr. Precious.
I think with regards to your question, if you're not being real to yourself and you're not identifying that, no, we're good. We're doing this together. And you can't identify that you're struggling and you're masking, isn't it? You're putting a mask and you're putting a front on.
Yeah.
Then there is no way that you can actually move to doing anything about your state. So you can't move into looking after yourself. You can't stop things. You can't change things because you're not acknowledging that actually I'm not doing well. Yeah, so nothing will change unless you're actually admitting, because you're not going to ask for help. You're not going to stop. You're not going to. So it's really important.
Yeah, and that's I think goes back to Shanique's answer, that to be acceptance. Yeah, accepting that there's something wrong and that you need to do something about it. Because I like the fact that you asked that when you come home. So you're not just and I go back to the fact when she said she was struggling this week, but when you come home, we'll get to, who was it?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. I like the fact that when you said you come home, because when you come home, you don't just come home to yourself, unless you live by yourself, if you know what I mean. But it's even, I wouldn't say worse, but when you come home to yourself, you need to actually be real as well if you're by yourself. But when you come home and you share a family, that's where, like Precious says, it's a little bit more, you need to be true. That there's something happening at work, I'm a bit stressed. And kind of like try to deal with that. So when you don't project that onto the wife or the child, or in another case, the dog, or the cat. Put him outside for a minute because he's getting on my nerves. Yeah.
It was just to really kind of expand on what's being said about being real. And I think the more important thing is being real with others. We can mask all we want, and we can live in this cognitive dissonance of I'm okay, and you can put on a front. Obviously, I'm going to speak a little bit later about sort of being transparent and being honest. But we can pretend to ourselves, or we can tell ourselves we know what the real issue is. But how good are you at masking that to the people that are closest to you? A lot of the time, when it comes to things, particularly like suicide, it's kind of like, oh, we didn't know. We didn't know. You would never know that they were struggling. It's because they were being real with themselves in that I know I'm struggling, but the picture that you're painting is I'm okay. Everyone will always say, oh, but he was okay, she was okay. But the fact is they weren't okay, and it's because they weren't, or they felt unable to communicate that they were not doing okay. So I think there's sort of a wider context here in terms of, are you being real with the people that are closest to you? And I'm not saying that you need to sort of share your story with everyone, but the people that care about you the most, the people that are gonna impact the decisions that you make, or that the decisions that are gonna impact the people that are closest to you, those are the people that we need to be thinking about. Should I be being real or realer with them about what I'm doing, and how they can sort of step in to help, or how you can address those battles together, because family is a huge thing, friendships are a huge thing, and we have support networks around us for those specific reasons. So I think there's also a key thing to bear in mind in terms of being real with other people as well.
Absolutely.
I know we have to move on, but I do like that, because I think there was a research that's gone out before, and to say that how much people actually share their difficult moments with their family or their immediates, and it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot of people that says I would, because there is different circumstances, and there's deep things that you might not want to share, and it's very hard. It's like someone would say you'd rather tell a stranger than you will tell actually the person who you love next to you. In this case, my wife, would I tell her certain things, or would I tell my mate? Do you understand what I mean? When I'm supposed to share it with her, but because I love her, I might not want to tell her because it might hurt her. So I'll tell my mate, because I know it won't hurt my mate, because he's just my mate, and he will just say, well, mate, so it goes on in there, and it stirs things up. So how much of us actually want to be real in that sense? Yeah?
We've got the support team, as we think, like our friends or family and stuff, but it comes back to the environment. Like, is your support team acceptable or accepting mental health? How aware are, what am I looking to say? How aware or accepting are they of this whole mental health thing? Because if they're not someone who's going to support or understand it, it makes no sense in speaking about it, because then it puts you more deeper in that depression state, because their reaction, their quote unquote word of advice, or just the word that they say sometimes can make the situation worse. So having that support, people around you talk to, go party with, whatever they are, family and friends, are they willing, are they open-minded to this situation to be able to support you in even just not say nothing? Because sometimes, don't say nothing, please. Because sometimes a person think they're helping by saying something and makes the situation worse. So how open-minded are they about mental health, even though they are there as quote-unquote a support team? So that's a factor that should be taken into
consideration. Thank you. Yeah. I think that's great. So we just put those up as these are so the same dimension, and each of those dimensions can also negatively contribute to our well-being and mental health. So like we discussed, work problems, social isolation and loneliness. We know there's a big thing about loneliness at the moment, and that's really affecting a lot of people and, contributing to a lot of ill health. So child abuse, trauma, violence and neglect, and caring for a family member, that can also have a negative impact on you. And then obviously money worries, finance, and also death, loss definitely can negatively contribute if you don't process loss properly, and bereavements and stuff, and not move along.
And there's a few of them that's highlighted, especially now in this season because of the coronavirus, And obviously you've got money worries. That's one of them. Am I going to lose my job? Can I, you know, all these kind of stuff. You've got death for someone as well. That's very big contributing at the moment. And also social isolation and loneliness. That's pretty much one that a lot of people are finding that I think there's a case maybe where people are saying, I don't mind being by myself. But when it's funny when you start to have a situation like the pandemic, and they realize that they actually by themselves and nobody's actually coming to check on them, it becomes such a awareness of, my God, now I'm alone. I'm alone. What? I'm alone. Well, hold on a minute. You said you don't mind being alone. You were alone before. But because of the intense of the, let's just say, situation that's happening, is heightening it. And they start realizing it, and it's cause of distress. Right?
Yeah.
Move on to the next.
Next one.
Next slide.
So these are just the things we've already, again, highlighted of what can positively contribute to one's mental health.
Good mental health. Just good well-being. Good well-being. Good well-being. So there's a few things. I think you guys kind of like identify most of these already. Exercise regularly.
We know exercise is, you know, anyone who suffers like anxiety, going gym and exercising really helps with that. And amongst other
and a lot of people are doing that these days. You see them running out because COVID locked them in, so they want to actually just go out and be out. So they want to do something. Getting a good night's sleep.
I mean, sleep is underrated for some people. Like, I don't think people really know. I'm a sleeper. I like sleep.
Yes, she is.
I love sleep. However, I think it's really underrated. Like, we do have to get a good amount of sleep to be able to function properly. And when we don't, it does then, after a while, having a negative effect on our physical body as well as our mental body. Like, try go without having sleep. Like, I really feel for those who have insomnia and that it is just
anxiety.
Terrible. Yeah, it just really has a negative effect. So getting a good amount of sleep is so important. Someone has a question?
I have a question. So we're living in a grind culture, isn't it? I don't know if you know about the grind culture, whereby, you know, you're meant to work the extra hours, you know, go to bed late because you're chasing literally the paper, right? And we've heard on TV where it says, if you sleep too much, you become lazy or you're poor. Yeah. So, I mean, you just talked about sleep is underrated. So what would you say for the people that like grinding, they like doing the extra hours, and they believe literally that actually 4 hours or 5 hours is just enough. You don't need more than that.
So maybe the doctor part of me will come in now because I'm like,
here's come the doctor.
What grinding? Stop grinding. Okay, so with the exercise, there's that, people, it makes you feel good. And if you have a diet plan, you want to look lean or whatever, it helps. But there's also this thing when, I don't know how many people manage to get to the gym. I don't, unfortunately. But, you go for a walk or just things that actually get your heart rate going. It releases chemicals in your body that your brain loves, and it makes you feel good. So that's the other thing that's linked to exercise. And that's why you get people that literally are addicted to exercising because of that chemical that it releases. So exercise is brilliant. Sleep actually has so many different ways in which it impacts us. It's not just our mental health that gets impacted, but physically. There are all sorts of physical health problems now that are also linked to not getting enough sleep. We're hearing a lot about the increase in things like dementia, things like high blood pressure. Yes, that's related to stress, but if you're also not sleeping enough, you know, that's going to affect your physical health. But certainly mental health and sleep go hand in hand, because if your brain is rested and you get up feeling well rested, you feel prepared for the day.
Yes.
You know, you got a little bit of bounce, even if you think, I've got so much work to do. But because you've had enough rest, you can sort of tackle the day. So sleep is so important, whatever, irrespective of the grinding and money that you need to go and make. If you can prioritize getting at least 6 to 8 hours sleep every day, if not every day, most days. I know that's most days, because it's really difficult. We have to be realistic as well. But I think if you're aware that sleep is crucial, and something's got to give. If something's given, it's likely going to be your physical health down the line. You might not feel it now, but as you get older, that's when it starts to sort of accrue an impact on your physical and mental health.
But even saying that, thank you for that, Precious. But even saying that, they always says much of one thing is not always great, because having too much sleep is not exactly great either.
I don't know what that means.
She honestly doesn't. But in reality, you might think, even though we are laughing and joking, but having too much sleep sometimes can make you have. Sometimes, when I was younger, and I used to sleep like at least 13 hours, like a little bit tired. More. You wake up more tired. You're thinking, I just slept now. Why am I still tired? But you actually, and the reason why I say that, because we're talking about well-being and mental health, is another way to recognize if someone starts to sleep too much that they didn't normally do. These are ways you could actually tell when a person is saying, what's going on? There's something not right. Whether it be physical well-being or, do you know what I mean? But there's something not right. So again, too much sleep. It's not always the greatest. Right. So we have next.
So
eat and drink well.
Eating well. We know diet contributes a lot to our well-being, should I say, because that's mental and physical. Talk to someone. Talking helps.
Talk to people can help quite a lot.
Yeah, it can, yeah. So I think one day a friend just asked, how are you out she just asked, how are you? And on this particular day, I actually told her how. Sometimes you gloss and be like, yeah, I'm cool, I'm fine, all is well, all good. But this day I actually just went, blah, 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 blah. And I literally, I wasn't even looking for any response. I just felt good afterwards. And I said, I'm sorry if you didn't really want to know how I am, but I told you anyway. She's like, no, of course, this is good. And, and I didn't realize I needed that until I did it. So it's also good to be that for somebody else. And when you ask that question, mean it, be genuine about it, and be willing to hear what this person is saying. Yeah. So it does help. Like I think you said, it's not necessarily someone needs something back, but just the space.
Just to listen, someone to listen. As I said, talking to people is highlighting that it's important to the point where if it's finding someone that you trust, or someone that you find to be close that you could speak to. Remember, I go back to say that sometimes it's hard to share things with the people that we're close to, but finding that person that you can talk to is important for your well-being as well. It releases you. It turns the tap on in that bucket that I think, are we going to still do the...
I don't know. So do things for others. We know that's, it makes us feel good when we do things for others.
Feel good factor.
Good, but obviously not coming from a selfish place, but, it does help to do things for others.
Feel good.
Feel like you can ask for help as well. I think sometimes I will do this in our small discussion groups. What stops people from asking for help, and what stops people from talking? Recognize and manage stress. A lot of us don't. I remember being stressed, but not knowing that I was stressed until I went to the GP and a trichologist was like, yeah, you're stressed. And I was like, how am I stressed? They was like, you've got so much on, you don't even realize that you're not internalizing your stress. So from then I had to be more intentional in managing the things I'm doing and making sure I know my stress levels. And do something you enjoy, like Junior said, like it helps. Like he likes to watch funny videos and sit there and
love watching my funny videos. Make me laugh.
Yeah, so do something and then be kind to yourself. Like honestly, like sometimes we feel, I don't know, selfish that we're taking time for ourselves, but definitely
it's
be
not
kind
selfish,
to yourself.
People.
Make excuses for yourself as well, and just genuinely love on yourself. Sometimes we don't do that enough. We love on other people. We show them love, but we don't often show ourselves that level of love. But we do need it, and we deserve it.
Be kind. I think you mentioned it earlier. Yes, like treat yourself. You got to treat yourself. Yes, that's it. Sometimes, not too much now. Don't want to break the bank, trying to get that bag, but treat yourself. Every once in a while, look after yourself. Take that trip, take that break away. She's probably thinking now, like, I need to go on a retreat and leave you and Ariella, which is my child, our child. See what I mean? There you go. She's like, yeah, okay. Girls night out. But treat yourself. You do need that every once in a while to get away. And guys, who's got children, let the ladies enjoy themselves a little bit. All right? I'm talking to myself as well.
We did have
Anyway.
a short we did have a short clip to show, but we won't be able to do it for one reason or another. Our media, so we're gonna have to skip this.
Oh, it doesn't
Or we'll
work,
try
okay.
and send it out actually to everyone who's attending, so you see where we was trying to go with this.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
the clip basically, to summarize that, the clip was done on the back of one of our events that we did previously. I think it was around mental health. Was it well-being as well? I think it was mental health and well-being.
Pandemic and the well-being.
Pandemic and the well-being, just to see how people were doing throughout the pandemic. But that derived from that, where all the specialists at that time was, the key words were the key kindness and compassion. The key words was kindness and compassion. So we decided we wanted to do a clip to show how you could actually, you know what, when you're going through things, just actually talk yourself down. Yeah, talking yourself down sometimes help. Like, yes. And then actually do a bit of treating yourself, you know, loving on yourself a little bit to get rid of anxiety and pressure.
Loving on yourself, I like that. Yeah, so it was a Be Brave production. But yeah, if you go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is a bit I also will just remind everyone to look after yourself and take a break if you need to. Yeah, so 4,912 people died by suicide in 2020. Also, that number can go up because sometimes we don't get the total number of death because it takes long to get the death certificate and the reason of death when it comes to suicide, because there's a lot of things that go into it. So sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes more. So that number possibly could go up. Also, men are 3 times more likely to commit suicide than women. And maybe it's a thing of women are more likely to report suicidal thoughts, so they may get help sooner than males do. And then men aged 45 to 49 and women aged 50 to 50 have the highest rates of suicide in England and Wales. And then carers in the UK, with over 5,000 carers across the UK, revealed that carers feel more stressed, 78% feel more anxious, and 55% reported that they suffered from depression as a result of their role caring, which was higher than fine. So basically, if you're caring for someone with mental health needs, it does impact on you and it has a negative impact, and that's why it's also good to look after yourself as well, and a lot of them don't. For one reason or another, and that's when that comes out. So on that note, we've got Kenny, who is going to come and next slide, share her story with us.
Let's welcome her, please.
Let's get her in. Thank you, Kenny.
Hi guys, how you doing? Are we feeling good? I'm not gonna lie, I'm very, very nervous. I don't do public speaking at all. But there's purpose behind what I'm gonna share with you today. And if you can take anything from what I say to you today, choose life, choose happiness, choose enjoyment. My dad, he took his own life in 2019. He was 59. He had suffered with mental health in the past and had made attempts on his life previously as well. And he'd sort of gone through periods of feeling quite depressed. My dad, he was a superhero. He had his own businesses. He came to the UK when he was 21, left his family, left everyone, left everything he knew just to come to the UK. Met my mum, they settled down, got married, had myself and my twin brother. Then a couple of years later, I had my younger brother. So they were balancing managing their own businesses, being self-employed, and being parents. I'm a parent myself, I've got my daughter. It's hard. And when you've got twins and you've got multiples under the age of 2 at any one point, it's very stressful. But he powered through, they powered through together. My dad was very, very ambitious. So he was always keen to move on to the next business venture. And initially they sort of started with a chain of off licenses in South London. Then they moved into the restaurant business. They had their own business, Nigerian food. I'm an advocate for Nigerian food. I love food. And it was very, very busy. Both my parents were extremely popular, became quite socialite, I guess. And because it was so busy and they were sort of the first in the industry, in the restaurant industry, it was a lot of pressure for them. And it took its toll on their relationship. And I think because they were embedded in that grind culture, really trying to make money, really trying to provide for their family, to ensure we had the best. When we got older, our parents sent us to boarding school in Nigeria, private boarding school. As you can imagine, very, very expensive, which meant the money demands went up. But in that whole period, they were still trying to maintain a good family environment for us. You okay? A good family environment, instilling morals and values in us as well. And this whole balancing act it was a struggle. I understood that. In 2008, he made his first attempt on his life. Won't go into too much detail, obviously, because there are kids here and stuff. But when he was taken to hospital on that first occasion, they said, oh, Mr. Papula, we're going to have to, or they spoke to my mum, Mrs. Papula, we're going to have to get a mental health expert in. And my mum was like, mental health, what's that? Femi, what's that? So it was kind of like, she didn't understand, we didn't understand. I was, I guess, 21 at the time. Didn't really know what was happening. I actually was the one who saw my dad and had to call the emergency services, but I still didn't understand that was what was happening. So with that, I think after having his consultation, it became apparent that he was really quite depressed, really quite stressed. And I saw that because he pushed. He was very, very much, I'm chasing the money. And unfortunately, as I'll go into it, his mental health suffered as a result of that push, that additional pressure, that extra stress, everything that was around him. Do you want to stand up, baby? You stand up, or you can sit down on the stage. His mental health deteriorated quite quickly, and he was put on medication. I think initially I'd said to him, try talking to someone. If you're not okay, talk to someone. Don't just go for the medication. I'm not dispelling the use of medication, not at all. But I always think, try speaking to someone first. And this is where sort of talking about having a support network here. And I think you rightly identified, what if somebody isn't accepting of that? I mean, sometimes you just have to try. You will never know. You just have to try. He never spoke about his issues, and it's a lot harder. It's stigmatized in the African community. We don't talk about mental health enough. And that's a large part of the reason why I'm standing here, because I think raising the awareness and speaking about it is the first step to normalizing it, destigmatizing it, and ensuring that people are aware that it is completely normal. My dad was in and out of homes, sort of back and forth. He would go through good periods, bad periods, and we watched him. It unfolded right in front of us, watching him getting sectioned, watching him just being a complete shadow of his former self. And I personally feel that after the first attempt on his life, he just wasn't the same person. We saw sort of, glimmers of him being the same from time to time. We saw sort of joy in him when I had my daughter. He had a wonderful relationship with her. I was a daddy's girl, always have been a daddy's girl, and he extended the sort of love he had for me and how he treated me to her. So everything I got away with, she started to get away with him. And it was such a beautiful relationship. My mum had a lot of health issues. And I think Voke earlier spoke about caring for someone with mental health issues, but that also extends to physical health issues. My mum was in and out of hospital a lot. She had liver cirrhosis in addition to a lot of other health issues. She was partially sighted, and he became her carer for the last part of his life. It was very stressful because she was in and out of hospital continuously, points where we felt like we were going to lose her, and he was her carer in that time. Thank you. She's trying to relax me. In sort of the last few months before my dad passed, my mum was in hospital for a period of about a month. And then she was given sort of carers to come into the house, look after her, but he was her main carer. He became responsible for administering her medication. He became responsible for taking her to and from all of her appointments, etc. And I noticed that it was a lot for him. My mum would go through good spells and bad spells, and then the very last spell before this happened, she'd ended up in hospital, and he genuinely felt like he was the one that was responsible for it. So he kept on asking questions. He was like, was it me? Did I do something wrong? I feel like it was something I did wrong. And we tried to explain to him, you know, Dad, it's fine. We couldn't have seen this coming. Her body is just so weak, she's likely to react to anything. But because it was quite a severe reaction, so my mum had become quite unresponsive to the point that she wasn't able to communicate, she wasn't able to do anything. So he genuinely felt that it was a result of something that he had done. And in hindsight, I kind of see that he'd become very, very erratic, very withdrawn. He just wasn't himself. While she was in hospital, we had a conversation, and I said to him, you know, it's fine. Like, this is like a clean slate. When she comes back from hospital, everything will be okay, and we can just, you know, continue as normal. Then I was like, oh, Dad, you should come back to mine. Let's have a drink. And he was like, no. Dad, let's go out for something to eat. No. Do you want me to send you a drink from my house? And he said, no. And I thought, okay, no problem. Gave him a kiss, gave him a hug. I'll see you later, Dad. I spoke to my uncle maybe the day before, and I was like, Dad doesn't seem himself, but, you know, he has ups, he has downs. I'm sure he'll be fine. On the day he passed, we were going to my younger brother's house just to have like a family catch-up thing. And my dad said, no, I don't want to come. So I lived by myself. My twin lived with my mum and my dad, and we were all going to drive up to North London. Then my twin phoned me and said, oh, Dad said he's not coming. Oh, he's just being long. And I was like, leave him. Maybe he just wants to be by himself. Just, you know, leave him. There was so much traffic heading towards Wood Green, and I was driving, was running late, and I thought, oh, let me just go home and pick up my dad. Let me just go home and pick him up. And I was like, if I turn around, it's going to be long. You know when you go through Blackwall Tunnel, and then you're in the traffic, you're like, ah! To turn around, problem. So I was just like, nah, it's fine. He says he wants to be alone. He says he wants to be alone. Let me respect that. Let me not force him. Let me not push him. So we all went to my younger brother's house. We really enjoyed ourselves. My dad had sent he'd sent us all jollof rice, loads of jollof rice in containers. I actually still have the jollof rice in my freezer now. It's like the last thing that he cooked. And it's very sentimental to me. But on that day, we'd left the house, waited for the traffic to come down, and I went home and I was like, I'm gonna sit down and eat this food, watch TV. And then I got a call. My twin brother called me and he was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I was like, what? Just like, brother, I'm watching TV, what? And then he was like, Dad's killed himself. Pardon? He's done what? And he was like, I'm so sorry, and hung up the phone. I've got my best friend here, who was the first person I called, and I just said, I need you to come to the house. I'm going to my mum's house. My dad's just died. And it really, as I'm talking, I can feel the emotions that I felt that day, because it's still very raw. This happened in October 2019, and it's still very raw, but it has taken me till now to just be able to speak to people about it and just like the impact of it. My dad was the closest person to me. He was the first man that I ever loved, as you do. And him going left me with so many questions. Why did this happen? How did this happen? At that time, I was embedded in another church, and I ran from the church. I don't want to hear what you have to say to me, God. I don't care. I don't want to know, because I was serving in church. I was in the choir. I was giving my tithe, and I was just questioning why. Why him? Why that way? Why? I still have those questions now. I miss him so much, and living with what has happened has just, it's been very difficult. I'll be completely honest with you, it's been very difficult. But one thing that I understand is that it was a sickness. It was mental health. As much as I understand it, I'm never going to accept it because he was my dad. I'm not married. I've only got one kid at the moment. If I'm going to get married, who's going to walk me down the aisle? Who am I going to call? I used to call him for everything. We used to go on road trips. We used to do all these wonderful things together. And I know that everyone's always like, oh yeah, my dad's the best, but no, my dad was the best. And people will always testify of the sort of person their parent was. And my dad, he was a fighter. I understood that. He fought, and I understand that he pushed and pushed and pushed and just couldn't push anymore. To him, because he was depressed, I think the best way that I can describe it is that it's like having four walls. One here, one here, one here, one here. And all you're seeing is this wall. You can't see past it, you can't see through it, but you never look up. People need to learn to look up. Choose the light, follow the light. Choose the things that make you happy. I myself have suffered from depression, postnatal depression, but I've found what makes me keep going. Outside of having my daughter, I am a fit fanatic. I enjoy the gym. I enjoy running. I've recently started up my own fitness business just because I'm passionate about it, and we've spoken a lot today about passion. I'm very passionate about helping my physical health. At my biggest, and she will know, I weighed around 20 stone, now around 11 and a half, because I've, pushed through. It's the thing that makes me happy. I enjoy things like, I enjoy going out with my friends. I enjoy just talking nonsense. I enjoy doing things to help other people, and we touched on helping other people. A lot of the reason why I'm passionate about what I do fitness-wise is because I know the feeling that I get from helping myself, and I want other people to experience that. I want to connect physical to mental health because of what has happened. At the end of October, I did a walk. I did a nighttime walk for a campaign against living miserably, which is called CALM, which is a charity for suicide. When I started out, I was just going to raise a young £100. I wasn't going to tell anyone about it. I was just going to do it. Do the walk, go about my day. And then I was approached by ITV News to do an interview with them, just to talk about my dad, talk about the cause. And I think at that point, I realized that it was time for me to put my pain into purpose and share my story with everyone, share my family story with everyone, in the hopes of just, if it can help one person, that's one person that doesn't have to feel the pain that I or my family have felt. I also feel that God is now using me. He has decided to use me, as much as I may or may not want to share things about suicide, share things about people just speaking up. I speak up. A couple of things that people in general, if they ever feel down, if they ever feel like, I'm not really myself, a key thing is having an amazing support network. Amazing support networks are so underrated. I value my family, I value my friends so much just because of the support that they've given me. Whether it was with my dad, because following my dad passing, my mum actually passed the year after. So within maybe about 9 months, my mum also passed. So it's been a struggle. One thing that hasn't declined is my mental health. And that's largely down to God. It's down to having amazing people around me, and it's down to me pushing. And we've spoken about grind culture. I enjoy the grind, I'm not gonna lie. By day, I'm a civil servant. By night, or other parts of my day, I do fitness. So my day starts at 6 o'clock. I log on for work, and I push through. But one thing I'm never gonna do is sacrifice my mental health for that. If I need to take a day off, I'm going to take a day off. I'm not going to work myself into the ground for money that I won't spend if I'm dead. Listen, I'm saving for my mortgage, but I'm still going to go on holiday. If it takes me longer to get to a goal, just so that I can actually live my life, that is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to advocate to all of you, everyone online, everywhere. Choose life. Your life is so short. I've made decisions. Every decision that I've made, particularly since my mum has passed away in August 2020, every decision has been about, does it make me happy? If first and foremost, it doesn't make me happy, I'm not going to do it. Forget about the money. Money will always come, but do not sacrifice your mental health for anything, for anyone. The impact of suicide is so huge. I know that I've not even scratched the surface in terms of impacts on me, impacts on my family, because my twin brother was the person who found my dad, and he had to administer CPR knowing full well that my dad was already dead. The impacts that he is facing as an individual is going to be completely different to what I'm facing, but I know that by me sharing this, it will stop someone, help someone, let someone think. And I'm not saying, like, don't take your own life because it will hurt somebody else. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that you need to just think a little bit bigger, think a bit wider, think about, is there anything else I can do? Is there anyone else I can talk to? Is there something else? Is there another option? For me personally, I've spoken to organizations like Calm. I've spoken to the Samaritans, who are wonderful organizations, and they are not getting the support that they deserve. It's such, I always thought, I'm gonna end now, I always thought that this is something that would never happen to me. I never thought that it was something that I would be standing up here speaking to you guys about, but unfortunately it is. The real fact is that it is happening, it will continue to happen, but the more we speak about it, the more we destigmatize it, the less chances that there are that it will impact a family like mine, a family like yours, a family like anyone else's. Yeah, I think I hope I covered it, and I hope that's okay for you. Yeah, thanks guys.
Wow, come on, you could do better than that. You could definitely do better than that. Thank you, Kenny. Yes, you can. Listen, thank you, Kenny, for that. That was real facts, real emotion, real touching, and real felt. And I know you're not just here because of to give because of the emotions, but you're trying to help people to understand the impact of what suicide could do, and also not just suicide, but mental health that leads to suicide. Could we turn our mic down just a little bit? And let me just say, right, and this is for everyone, I want you to, if you had listened to what Kenny had said, which I'm sure you guys have done, hopefully. There you go. I like seeing the smile because I know you do. I want you to think about that for just a little bit. And I want you to pick out of that story key things that she's mentioned. Preventative measures, the impact, what you think has brought it on. Because we are talking about well-being. We are talking about mental illness or health, put it that way. She's mentioned a lot of key factors, what measures she will take, she has taken, and how she is now. Sometimes we don't want to wait till there's a tragedy happen for us to turn our lives around or to make better decisions. So I want you to take just a couple of minutes, actually think about that. And I want you to throw at me what she had said of key things that you hear. And it's still around the fact of preventative measures, what she has done now, what she could have, well, she didn't know then, as in just because of the situation. Is that okay for a minute or two? I just want you to get you thinking, because she's mentioned something at the end where she said that she wants you to choose life. She wants you to make conscious decisions that will help you to make better decisions about situations in your life. Because they didn't really see it as a, even though I think you said he's gone through suicide attempt before, but they didn't know it would occur at that particular time and that rate. But she saw something crucial. She said, Dad is not really himself. Or maybe I'm just giving it away there. Dad wasn't really himself. But she spoke to, was it your uncle? She spoke to her uncle. Dad doesn't sound like himself. But she made a decision not to turn around in the in the traffic because it was horrendous and she knew what it was like. So she didn't turn around to go get Dad. Could you imagine if she did? Do you see what I'm trying to get at? Think about these things. What could have been? What can be? And so on and so forth. Yes, sorry, Precious.
Kenny, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It was really touching, and obviously it's not easy. So thank you so much for your courage. I think just to kind of add to that, because I think sometimes, because as I was listening to you, especially when you spoke about noticing that, oh, Dad sounds different. He's not quite himself. I think, and then wanting to turn around, but just sort of keep going. I think sometimes what happened, and this is my therapy hat talking now, is that sometimes people go away thinking, oh, what if I just turn around? Dad will still be here if I just turn around.
Right.
But unfortunately, and I hope you know this as well, that when people get into that space, and that box is that box, and we talk a lot about the box. It's a black box when I talk about it with my clients. When people get into that black box, there is no light. And you could be, you know, they love, it's never a thing that they don't love you or you don't love them. It's just they can't see that because it's so dark in that box and there's no other way of seeing it. So even if you had turned around, Kenny, and gone to get your dad, the thing is he was still in that box. So you might have just delayed something that unfortunately was going to happen. So I guess I just want to really share that I don't think that you're not turning around that day, would he still have been here? It's just so unfortunate, because the other thing that I really heard was that it sounds like dads and maybe the family in our culture, we don't recognize mental health when it's happening. So we don't think, I don't know if you're, because I don't know your dad, but we don't think, oh, this is mental health. This is poor mental health. This is bad. What I'm going through right now is bad mental health. These struggles I'm having right now, this is what depression look like. We don't. Voki and I was having a conversation yesterday, I think, because we've been a very bad example of well-being, and we were sort of just laughing at ourselves, like, isn't it ironic that we're going to come and give a talk about well-being and we've done terribly this week at looking after ourselves.
Hypocrites.
Like really bad. I was like, can I remote in tomorrow? That was sort of my fake attempt of trying to look after myself. But I think at the time when you're going through something, you don't always know that, oh, I'm going through depression, I'm really low, I'm in a dark box. You don't, because that part of the brain's even switched off, you know? And I think it's so challenging. I think it's so amazing that you've got that strength to have these conversations and to bring this awareness to people, because people wouldn't even know. They say, oh, I was just having a tough time, just going through a dark phase. But it's more than that. Because when we have a tough time, normally we'll sleep, we'll wake up, and then we sort of keep going. But it's how to recognize when it's more than a tough time and when we need help. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you. Yes, I did meant to say thank you again, Kenny, because I recognize, yes, I know, thank you, Precious. I recognize that the fact remained that you actually, you said it was 2019, and to come to this point, some people take years to get to the point where they're actually standing and talking. They probably pull a chair before they actually, but you've actually stood here.
And also, it's not just one parent you lost two.
Two.
In a space of under a year. That's
courage. And that's you breaking through and forward and making your well-being your personal responsibility to be happy. And that's what I thank you for as well, that you didn't succumb to the emotions, the grappling, as Precious said, blaming yourself, putting yourself in that box and really engaging yourself, because that could lead to suicide. That could lead to other different emotional effects, which you didn't allow yourself to fall to. So we really thank you for that. Now, anyone else heard anything through this story that you...
When her mum said, what is mental health? I feel like that stood out to me because me being African, I've spoken to my mum about mental health and she just doesn't get it. She doesn't see how being young, you can be depressed, stressed. So it's like I can't go to her and explain to her how I feel. And I feel like it's a mentality we really need to just scrub out and get rid of, because if anything was seriously happening to me and I was to, God forbid, want to, I couldn't go to her and express my feelings. So I think it's really important to make it more aware. I speak to her about it all the time. I'm like, you can't think that way. That's an African mentality that you just need to get rid of. It's terrible.
Mom, come on.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Mom, you live in the 21st century. Come on. Sorry.
Thank you so much for sharing this story as well. And I like that you said, if you can take anything away, you said choose life. And I know a lot of us are focusing on the life bit, but I also want us to focus on the choose. And it's like kind of what you were saying about your friends. It's like we choose our jobs, we choose what we're going to wear, we choose our partners. Do we choose our friends? And it's like, I feel like we have a responsibility to surround ourselves with people that are hearing us. And something my best friend always says is, different people hear you differently. So it's like we have responsibility. If we go and talk to someone and we feel like they're not giving us the vibe, they're not giving us the support, we need to actively go to places and people that will hear us. And when we're talking, we're being real, we're getting that help and we're getting that support. It's not enough to say, oh, my friend doesn't listen, or they shrug it off. Like, I think we're past that stage where we take that lightly now. If you're telling someone, how are you doing? Oh, I'm okay. Oh, don't worry, you'll be fine. Those should be red flags. We need to start looking for red flags in friendships as well, because it's something so serious and we need to start taking it seriously. So I think that I took away from me that I need to be very intentional in my choosing the people that I'm around, choosing what I'm listening to, choosing just, having that choice. We had that choice, and our friendships, our family, and even like our parents, like they don't get it. And as much as we will be the advocate, there's going to come a time where we have to kind of say, okay, my mum doesn't get it, my family doesn't get it. We have to be the advocate where we're going around, we're speaking out, we're talking, because we have to be the advocate. And so I appreciate that, and I just want us to choose, that we have that power to choose, and we have to consciously be choosing our environment, choosing the people around, because it is something that we are all going through. It's a human experience we're all going through, so we just have to consciously be fighting for life. We have to choose life, because you said. So I just want to encourage all of us as well to just choose our environments, choose what we listen to, choose our friendships, choose people that are going to enable us to have good well-being. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well said. Anyone else? And okay, I think Dami. We'll have Dami first, and then I think someone else put their hand up.
Yeah, I think one thing...
Well, we had 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dami, go on.
I think one thing that I learned was understanding the difference between tough times and kind of like a mental health. In my family, it's all, tough times, get through it, Especially you're a man, just, pull through it. And, I've lived my life, pushing through things and not really like staying to really reflect. It's like tough times, let's move on. And I think it's just like, understanding that actually that time wasn't great. Reflect on it, don't make it hurt you. And I think it's reflected in kind of like my wife, Jessica. So sometimes she'll go through things, I'm like, just pull through, man. It's not that deep still.
Replicating what they say.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's kind of hard for me to kind of grasp that, it's just a bad day. Get through it. Wake up tomorrow, and it's a new day. So, but it's really understanding that, okay, this is actually a thing. I grew up not knowing it, so getting into it, especially through marriage, is like, I
can't get away from it.
Yeah, I can't just push through this. I got to work through this with my wife. So, yeah, I think that's what I learned. So.
Well, thank you. I think there was... Oh, sorry, do you want to say something real quick? think there was. Oh, it's Sharon, yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story. That was amazing. I think what resonated with me was the work-life balance, because I can relate to that and I struggle with that sometimes having children. And I just think for you it's a testimony, because the situation you had to deal with, I couldn't even imagine going through that, both parents, let alone to suicide. So you've come out on top. And I think the situation has definitely allowed you to persevere more and just appreciate life and what it can present for you. So I just want to say thank you so much also.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you a lot. Yeah, I got a lot from what you said, and I can relate to a lot other than the suicide part, but I think what stood out for me the most, other than everything else, was the fact that you made the choice to not let work or having the goal of a house distract you, in the sense where you know when to stop, you know when to take a break. And that's vital, because a lot of persons don't know when to take that break, when to stop, because I always said, listen, if you want to get the house, you want to get the car, whatever you're saving for, you're working hard for. If you have no life, you can't get it, you know? So to be able to accept, and not only accept it, but act on it, to actively say, listen, I'm taking a break. That is strength. That is strength. A lot of persons don't know that not giving into certain things, or being able to take responsibility or control of getting into a bad state or making bad choices because of our mental health, it is strength. And persons don't get rewarded or noticed for their strength. They think, oh, I'm feeling weak today, but you are strong, and you should applaud yourself, you know. Don't wait for me, don't wait for anyone else to say you're strong. Tell yourself you're strong. And you said a lot of stuff, but that is key, because you're able to take that break. So yeah, that's for me.
Fantastic. There was one. Oh, sorry, Orlando.
Thank you, Kenny, for sharing. I think one of the things is when you wait for too long, people say your point. So it's really interested. But one of the things I want to, I suppose, focus on is so many times we put emphasis on our physical health. So we go to the gym and stuff like that, but we don't actually also have the investment in our mental health. So I'm a counsellor by profession, and what I noticed on my training is that, you know, actually I've gone through a lot of stuff, including suicidal thoughts and even sometimes attempts, which I'd never talk about. It was really interesting, but I think coming here really provoked me to share. And what I do, I work currently in a prison, so I work with a lot of women that experience these thoughts on a daily basis, and I get heavy with all of that. And one of the things I really recognize is that if I don't have a place to offload, that does impact me going home. I don't consciously do it, but sometimes my wife talks to me and I'm like, ah. And it's not because of what she said, it's because what I'm feeling, and I'm unable to process it in a safe place. So one of the things I've learned, obviously, in our, I suppose, encouragement, and even the early signs of what I suppose your parents were going through at that time, and being in that place where you're trying to achieve goals and probably trying to set up a legacy for their children as well, is that where is it that they offload in that time? And I suppose that's the encouragement to everyone. Even at a young age, I was never taught, actually, in schools you're never taught, actually, you know what, where to go. You know what, this is going on. In my generation, you know, as I said, get on with it. Actually, really not that bad. Oh, you could do better. And it's always that consistent pressure, but no one's really said, actually, what's actually going on for you? Just talk. You know, I really have to encourage some of my friends is actually, at this moment in time, I just need you to hear. I don't need you to say anything. I just need to hear. Yeah, so I've got
Christian friends with one of my friends is a pastor, coming with the word. I hear the word. I don't need a word at this moment. I need to just get off what I need to get off. And I think that's so important. So I think that's one of the things that's really provoked me, what you're saying. And I think the more we talk about actually what's going on for us, the less power it has on us, and the more we enable someone else to actually share their story, you know. And it's so important that, you know, hopefully Be Brave will obviously release some resources for people, you know, to actually tap into. So whether it's, you know, what actually the pressure of life, and you love that, and the grind bit, even like having like life coaches and like investing, you know, actually having someone else that you can say da 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 da, and they can actually look at stuff an objective point of view and say, you know what, actually, have you thought of this balance? Have you thought of that balance? Because it's so important to have that balance in life, because we never know when God say, you know, that's your time. We never know. And it's so important to enjoy life and be present in life. I've got a little girl, and I always think, you know what, actually I want to do this for her, I want to do that for her, but sometimes I don't want to miss that little moments. And you know what, COVID was a blessing for me, because it allowed me to spend more time with my little girl, and like, you know, actually, and do those little things. The last point I'll make, because I think I'm going to be on a panel, hopefully people ask me one question. Last point I make is that my wife really made reference to me about working from home, because there's a time when I get a chance to work from home. He said, your working from home is totally different from hers. So she would literally be at the computer, working. My version of working from home, I'm at the computer, do my stuff, but I'm watching a TV program. I'm actually going to have a sleep, because I know my working day time, so I do my stuff at that time. But I'm also conscious that, you know, actually, this is how I'm feeling right now. I need to do this, otherwise this is going to play out later on in the relationship or in that day, and it's not what I want. So it's just, I'm really, I suppose, really fighting that corner about having that balance. It's so important. Yeah, sorry, I talk a lot, sorry.
I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. So I think I've not spoken because I want applause, because this is my reality. I'm sharing it because I want people to talk about it more. I want people to see that this is normal, because you would never, I recognize that you'd never look at me and think, this is what has happened and this is how quickly it has happened. But it's really just to advocate for people to make those choices and to be able to feel comfortable to speak in spaces. Something that I've taken from being a member of this church is, I think, I'm not sure how recently it was, but it was quite recent. And Pastor Akin was talking about, we have priorities, and we shouldn't, I think it's prioritize your schedule, or schedule your priorities. And I've learned to schedule my priorities. So when I'm at work, it's like, does that email need to be sent now? Can it wait? Can I take 5 minutes? Do I need to sit down here and work myself to the grave so that I can't spend my money? Because I want to enjoy my life. Everybody knows me now. I call myself self-proclaimed minister of enjoyment. That is me. That is what I want to do. I want to enjoy my life. As I said earlier, the money will always be there. The money will always come. But you have to choose the things that make you happy. Whether that costs you a little bit more today, you're already working, so you'll make the money back, isn't it? So don't work to the detriment of actually having a life. And that's like my takeaway. Because me, I'll talk to tomorrow. But I just wanted to sort of clarify those points, and just sort of the point that Pastor Akin said about scheduling your priorities is something that has stuck with me. And the funniest thing is that I don't even remember when he said it. I just know that it was something that stuck. Yeah, it's been said, and I think it resonates with me, because I know that I need to schedule my priorities. I know that I do a lot. She can testify to it. I work full time. I have my fitness business. I have a sort of gifting business. I manage her. I have to manage her. So it's very full on. And the key is always balance, because in amongst all of that, I still find time to prioritize myself and the things that I want to do outside of all of that. And I think there is enough hours in the day. The one thing that is lacking at the moment is the sleep, but I'm working on it.
Thank you. Okay, so one thing we'll do last, and as we said, we have to learn to take a break from things. We'll take a short break. But just before we get into that, let me just say, I'll ask your best friend, Because I tell you why we'll get into that. Because she's been a support, and she's here today, giving her support. And as you could tell, her daughter is very supportive because she's probably learned to be supportive from who she's around. And the reason why I want to hear from her is that she said the first thing I did was I called my best friend. How much of you remember that in the story? Maybe it was just me. Yeah, there you go. Hands are going up. She called her best friend. I know you didn't speak today, but we'll get you. But the fact remains is that she found a person to talk to, like Orlando said. She found a safe space. She found someone to talk to. And she actually released that the moment. I'm just thinking out loud. What if was the case may be that she didn't have a close friend like that to talk to? To deal with her brother, who's probably going through a little bit more than her because he's the one that found dad. So she probably has to deal with the brother and everything else that was going on at the time, plus mom, who is obviously, was she in the hospital at that time or was she at home? Right. So she was there. Exactly. So there's a lot of things to go on, but she called on a friend. And most of us has a circle that we need to be able to find, to be able to release on. So I just wanted to ask, what was your name again? Amanda. Amanda. Let's call her by her name. Say hi, Amanda. Lovely. We're not putting you on the spot. We love you, really. Well-being. But I just wanted to hear from your point of view, what was going on when she called you? What was happening through that time for you in the sense of like the emotions, knowing that it's your best friend, sort of stuff like that. Do you mind just giving us a little journey, just short journey, and then we'll take a break then? Is that all right? Is that okay?
For me, I'll be honest, she's a bit more than my best friend. She is my sister because we've known each other for, is it 17 years? So obviously I've known her parents, her mum and dad. I will call them mum and dad. So when someone that close to you rings you to tell you that, it's not just, it's a situation that she's dealing with. I've got my emotions with it because I was close to her parents. So I have to kind of suppress that to support her. And for me, it was just making sure that she was okay. She didn't want me to come to the house, but I did. I will ignore her when she says don't, because I know really and truly she needs that support. So I did go to her house and I was there with her throughout the whole process. And even when she was talking earlier, I was saying to her just a minute ago, even just her saying about when she called me, I can recall back to that day and the feelings and emotions that came with it. And when you see your best friend, your sister in that state, and even her brothers, it's hard because you have to try and find the strength within yourself to be strong for them and support them and do things to kind of comfort them. We're still young, we're only in our 30s. To lose... No, I'm 25. If that's the lie that you want to tell them, it's okay. Remember, God is watching you. Okay. We're in our 30s, and to lose our parents at that age, that's difficult. That's something that you wouldn't even imagine, and even in the circumstances. So I find it hard to support people, even though she'll probably say I probably do okay, or, well, I don't know. But yeah, it's just trying to find the right things to say, and even at that time, sometimes there isn't the right thing to say. It could just be, I think I remember like we were just talking about random things that night just to kind of get her through it. So yeah, but it was difficult. It still is difficult. This woman has been through so much more than what anyone would know, more than what she's even stood up today and said. But she is literally like the definition of strength. She is amazing. And I tell her that often, and she needs to believe it, because sometimes I think she doesn't, but she seriously is the definition of strength. She is a strong, strong woman.
So I guess it's the question of how did it make you feel when you actually help her out and to see where she is now? How did that make you feel in that regards? How did it make you feel due to well-being? She's like, seen who she is now today. Like you said, she's amazing. You know, she did all these things. She, you know, how does it make you feel as a person now? I think we had a slide and it says doing good on there. How does it make you feel? Make you feel good? But that's good. But the good thing about it is that you did help, and she's recognized that, and you've seen it today. And that's what makes your well-being so good as well, because you know that you could help someone else. And you've done that, and you're here today looking amazing. You both look amazing at 25. You know. Right, so look, in further ado, we will continue afterwards, but let's take a break because we had a lot on, and then we'll come back and we will go in through, I think somebody else has their story to share as well. So let's just take a break, quick 10-minute break. There's refreshments outside. You've got bananas. For the banana lovers, you've got loads of stuff that you want to eat, all right? So let's just take that 10 minutes break and we'll usher back in. Is that all right? Fantastic. Talk to someone. Empirical ones. Yes. Right, so we're going to come back in. Let's pull it back all together. Who's in the foyer?
Hello.
Let's just pull it back together. Let's pull it back together, guys. Fantastic. We're waiting for the guys in the foyer who's enjoying themselves, eating and drinking.
Day-to-day well-being, you know, what's happened for them, what was good, what wasn't, what did they enjoy, what didn't they enjoy, you know, just get them into that habit and grow with it as they grow older. Coming from a Nigerian even if you said something like, oh, I eat out, you're a child. You know, what do you have to be so sad about? Effective disorder. So it's a thing. November, December, January, people are naturally of a lower mood. Something to do with the weather. It gets darker quicker, you know, and it just has an effect. And it's cold. It just affects our mood. Let's face it. And yeah, so just be mindful of that as well. To be, I guess, intentional. As well, to check in. No, this is the season that for them to be, you know. But yeah. So saying that, we're gonna have Daniel. He's gonna come and share his story. Let's just be nice to him and welcome him.
Thanks, guys.
No one cares.
I'm a bit cold, so just. So my story starts from when I was 12. It's funny that. Well, it's funny that they said adverse childhood experience. So reading that, I noticed what started my journey. So growing up, I was having kids. My dad and mum. So good. So growing up, we were happy kids. I could say dad came home. And when I hit the age of 12, I noticed my parents fighting one day, like actually on us. My mom told my dad, and I respect my mom highly for this, because she was willing to stay in a loveless marriage for the sake of her kids. So my mom said, if you don't love me, at least stay for the kids. And my dad still decided to leave. So that put me in a mindset that not even my own dad wanted me. And that's what triggered my path towards depression. So 13, 14, 15, like every space that I seem to be in, I seem to get bullied in. So even in my own church, I used to get bullied in my church as well. I even had fist fights within the actual building of the church because I had no outlet. So yeah, that was happening a lot. Then the remedy for a Nigerian household, I'm fully Nigerian, the remedy for a Nigerian household is whenever your child does something wrong, you flog them. And by that time, my mom and dad, they separated. But my dad still seemed to come to the house sometimes. And the only time I would see him was when he would come back to flog me. But growing up, I wasn't a bad child growing up. I was the perfect child growing up. I did nothing wrong, got good grades in school, did nothing wrong. So the person who got flogged the most was actually my older brother. There was a time my mom chased him around church in her heels because he was misbehaving. But so he would get flogged, I wouldn't get flogged. So getting flogged was a whole new experience for me. It seemed, to me, it triggered in my mind that if I get beat, or if I get beat up, then it's because I did something wrong, which isn't necessarily always the case. So another thing that progressed my path towards depression was my dad would only come home to beat me. He wouldn't come home on my birthdays. He wouldn't come home when I did well in school. He wouldn't come to my sports events. But if it was to be beat, he was there. So what happened when I was 16? I'm still trying to remember. It's such a complex problem. To be fair, I think the person it affected the most was my older brother when he did leave, because my dad left when my older brother was in uni and he was struggling with finances. To progress to the next year, he needed about 5,000 at that time. And then my dad would make promises that he never kept. So my older brother had to leave uni. So that really affected him, and it did a knock-on effect. So from an early age, I felt I had a sense of abandonment from my dad and from my older brother. So growing up, my older brother would reject me from coming places with him. I couldn't speak to him about anything, no experiences, nothing to do with girls, to sports, to games, literally nothing. We were two opposite ends of the spectrum. And that divide is seen today. Me and him aren't close at all. Where was I going? I literally forgot. It was the what? Yeah, so, okay, cool, yeah. So on my okay, I'm going to be jumping back and forth. I've actually almost lost all my family members at once, twice in my life. So I almost lost my older brother when I was 10, where he got stabbed and the blade was 2 inches from his heart. And then I almost lost my little brother when we went on holiday. He almost got abducted. And my mum has suffered. My mum's the strongest woman I know, by the way. Like, my mum has suffered from sickle cell, her entire family being wiped out in a house fire, to cancer, to bone fractures, like literally anything you can think of, my mum has suffered it. And again, the stress that this put on me was immense, because out of all my brothers, I'm the one that shows that I care. So I'm the one who will look after her, bring her medicine, drive her to the hospital, all this sort of stuff. So it put a lot of pressure on me as well. So I was harboring all these feelings, and then it all came crumbling down when I was 18. So I was in university, and again, you know, the whole concept of you're a man, suck it up. It's not really anything, it's not mental health, it's just a tough time, you know, everyone goes through it. Just suck it up and keep going. But for me, it didn't seem that way. So it was the winter of 2017. And I noticed myself just feeling sad. And I don't know why I was feeling sad, but I was feeling sad. So these are key signs of depression, by the way. So I locked myself in my room. So this was my second year house. So I was living with all my friends. We all used to play American football together. So I stopped going training, locked myself in my room, didn't turn the lights on, closed all my blinds, wasn't eating. I was sleeping probably like 16 hours a day. And that's a side effect, because I wanted to get away from my reality. And I was just tired all the time. So these are all signs of depression. And then my friends would ask me, do you want to come out? We're going like clubbing or whatever as you do in uni. I was like, no, I'm good, but I wasn't good. Then that's when I decided to return home. Then that's when I got the news that, yeah, my mom's got cancer. So I don't remember anything. I just remember running out the house, down my road. I live along the River Thames. Out my house, down the road. I wasn't wearing any shoes, no socks. So my feet were just slapping against the floor, just running. And then I just sat there. Didn't have anyone to talk to, no one that really understood, apart from my ex at the time. But yeah, I couldn't really explain the feeling. And then the worst time that it got was, I just felt like no one wanted me, and I sensed like I was a failure. So I dropped out of uni because depression just took over my life. I couldn't do anything, so I just came back home. Then I just felt like a failure. Like my mum, bless her, my mum would tell me things like, oh, like, look at your cousins, or look at your friends, do they have 2 heads, like they've graduated and all this sort of stuff. And I'm just sitting there in the corner of the living room like, I don't really care. Like, then she was like, oh, what about a job? You know, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this. But she couldn't sense that something was wrong. So then one night, I overheard her talking to my auntie, her sister, on the phone, like complaining about me. And then that's when I was just like, you know what, like, I just might as well not be here. So left the house. This was at like 11 p.m. Left the house. Didn't take no coat, no nothing. I had planned to end my life like that night. So my house is like near the River Thames. So I was just walking, thinking, like psyching myself up to actually do it. Because there's always a period where no one just commits suicide. They go through a conversation in their head with themselves and saying, is this what you really want? Are you sure? You might as well. Okay, how are we gonna do it? Okay, this is how we're gonna do it, let's prepare. So it's normally like that. So as I'm psyching myself up to do it now, I'm walking towards the River Thames, and the tide was in, and because it was night, the water seemed so dark. So in my head, I was like, yeah, this is the right setting. I deserve this. This is what I deserve. I might as well not be here, whatever. So I climbed up. So there's a barrier to stop little kids falling in, obviously. So I climbed up on top of the barrier. And as I'm looking into the water, like I'm on my toes, like this, like ready to just, just dive in. And but I can swim, so I don't even know how that was gonna work. But I was just gonna dive in. But yeah, I would say it's my faith that saved me that night, basically, because I heard God saying, like, just take a step back. So I just took a step back and I came off the wall, came back home, and I didn't even know, like, my phone was off, turned on my phone. I left my house at 11, turned my phone on at 3 a.m. I got phone calls from my cousins, from my little brother. And this is what depression does. It confines you in such a way that you think that no one actually cares and you don't deserve to be where you are. So, yeah. The phone call that came through first was my little brother. And he was on the phone, he was crying. He was saying, like, where are you? Like, all this sort of stuff. Like, I miss you. Like, what's going on? So that put into perspective that at least one person cared. Then I got messages from my cousin, like, don't do anything stupid. Like, we're here for you, all this sort of stuff. Again, another person that cared. So I walked home, and I saw the police in front of my house. You know how African mothers are? They're like, yeah, one more. So all of this sort of stuff. So, yeah, the police were there. I sat down in the corner. They were trying to talk to me. I just didn't want to talk to anyone. And yeah, they put me on medication. I was on medication with beta blockers. Beta blockers, yeah. I was on medication for a while. I had to go to therapy. But the problem with therapy is that they'll put you in therapy and you're on a waiting list for like 6 months. Then when you do get the therapy, it's only for like, especially for men, it's like, okay, you get 4 sessions and then they'll send you on your way. But I wasn't okay. So you guys don't know this, but this year I actually relapsed back into depression. And that was because, and it's something so simple. Last year, during a football match, I got injured. So I ruptured my patellar tendon, so it stopped me from being able to walk. So I had an operation. I was bedridden for 4 or 5 months, lost all the muscle in my leg. So I couldn't walk. I couldn't do what I loved, which was sports. On top of that, I couldn't work during the pandemic. So I wasn't making money. I wasn't doing what I loved. I was just sitting in my room. And before my birthday, which is in September, I lent my older brother my car. And in the space of 2 weeks, he racked up charges worth between £1,000 and £2,000. And for me, that wasn't working. I got these letters 2 months later, so I couldn't transition the charges to his name. So it was on me. So as I told him, he was like, yeah, I'll sort it. Cool. So here's me still bedridden. March, I receive a knock on the door. Bailiffs are in front of my house. They're asking for £1,300. I haven't worked. So my mental health is literally on the edge. Then I get this knock on the door from bailiffs asking for this money. My older brother is the hardest person to get a hold of, unless he wants something. So this is, again, what causes the divide between me and him. So in my eyes, growing up, I never had an older brother. I don't have one. And it's sad to say, but that's how I feel. So I try my best to be an older brother to my little brother, which is why we're tight. So yeah, I relapsed into depression again. Had to go back on medication. But the good thing that I like about my auntie is she's young. So my auntie realized that I was relapsing into depression, and she said, let me take you out of that environment, come to my house. And so she lives in Essex, I live in Southeast London. And she was like, come to my house and we'll just work on you. So I did that. Again, it helped. But again, I would say the thing that saved me was my faith. Started praying. I had that. It was a new environment, so I started praying more, trying things differently and stuff. So I wanted to thank Kenny, but she's gone, for what she said as well. It's just finding things that you love doing. So for example, one thing I really love doing is annoying my mum and my girlfriend. So I really like annoying them. But they know it's from a place of love. But I like annoying them, and it makes me smile, and it makes them smile. So that's one of the things. Slowly getting active again. I like playing games, all this sort of stuff. It really contributes to mental health. But from my story is, the key things I want to highlight from my story is, again, one, it can happen at a young age. Something from a young age can trigger that path to depression. The key signs of someone in depression, so the sleeping, dark room, all that sort of stuff. Again, having someone to talk to, but again, being that good person as well, which I am to my little brother. He knows he can come into my room at any time, doesn't matter what day or night, whatever it is. We can always talk about every and anything. Also, never taboo the subject of depression in church. For example, to get my mum to where she is now, I had to fight tooth and nail to tell her that depression actually exists. And she said, where in the Bible does it say depression exists? I was like, it's funny you should say that. So one of God's favorite prophets went through depression, where he was under a tree and actually begged God to take his life. Me and my girlfriend was doing Bible study literally 2 days ago, and we realized that Job had all the signs of depression as he lost everything. So I said this to my mom, and my mom couldn't say anything. She just closed the door in my face. So my mom, I'm grateful for my mom to be able to be humble enough and patient enough to actually learn about this. I'm very privileged in the fact to have a parent like that where others don't. But I believe parents, it starts from the parents, that it's actually a culture of teaching that communication, mental health, depression, it all exists, but communication is key, which is what the kind of culture I'm building with my girlfriend as well. Like, weekly we have meetings talking about, okay, how is the relationship going? Are you happy? Do you feel like we can do something different to make it better? And it's just building that culture that eventually when we do get married, we can pass on to our kids as well. So that's the key message. Parents need to build that culture. Like we talk. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Yes. Wow. We've known Daniel for a little while. He's been one of our key supporters and also young ambassadors that actually helps us out sometimes to come and especially share his experience. Not only that, but to be a front man for us sometimes at Be Brave. But there's always so much key informations and stuff that he's come out with now. I'm like, what? I didn't know that. What? That story's slightly different. But he's mentioned another key point, which we're going to do, and we're going to quickly move on, is parents. Parents. His lovely girlfriend, sorry, I didn't remember your name, Rafia. She mentioned about that when she can't go to her mom about mental health because she will be like, what is that? We had Kenny shared her story where it's like the dad didn't understood mental health. He didn't know what it was. So obviously he fell even deeper, so he didn't know what to do because of that. And then here we have Daniel mentioning that similarity about parents not understanding. And I'm just trying to say to you that we're in a generation where there's a lot more young people now discovering things, discovering different things, exploring their feelings and emotions and all these kind of stuff. But the older generation, because they were built on just get on with it, like Tammy says, come on now, pull your big pants up and get on with it. You could do it. You could do all things through Christ restraining. Yeah, yes, thank you, yes. But there's some emotion that's going on. Do you understand what I mean? So some older members. So what I'm really trying to say is that when you're dealing with the older generation, it's something to consider how we're putting across, how we're getting across to them, because if you start going to them saying mental health and well-being, what's that? Huh? Then if you say, Mom, I'm not feeling very well, I think there's something going on. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So there's ways of different, so we could actually talk to our parents, because it's nice when you could actually talk to your parents, because you feel at home, you feel loved, you feel that there's a place you could express. Yes, so there's a stigma going on there. And the next question, are we going to do the question? Or are we going to move on to the panel? Okay, so we're not going to do that question. So we're just going to move on to the panel because of time.
Well, we'll do the question, but we'll ask the panel.
We'll ask the panel instead. So we'll just grab a bit of chair and we'll get them up there. And one right there, thank you. Put it right in the middle. And could we get the mics? Okay, so Voke, you're going to do the intro?
I'm just going to get the mics. Oh, you've got the mics up there.
I've got the mics here. I'm ahead of you. So
okay.
That's four.
Can we ask our amazing pastor to come up?
Yep. Come on, give him a round of applause. Pastor Akinola.
Precious.
That's number 4. That's 4.
Orlando. Mr. Daniel.
Daniel. Where is? We need 3. 3. 3.
Where is my number 3?
We need 1. Let's go, Mike 1. 1, 2, 3. No.
Oh, does it?
3. Yeah, we're doing a number here.
I've got 1.
1.
Oh, why can't I have 1?
Where's the other mic? There's another one. Give it. Oh, yeah. Oh, has everybody got now? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I think we thought we run out of mics there for a second. Right. Okay, so this is our panel. So if you guys are too far away, you could come a bit closer. I think we grabbed the front chairs. We should have grabbed it from the back. It's all right, nevertheless. So we got our amazing panelists. We got our pastor of Equipping People, New Covenant Church Equipping People, Pastor Akinola. We've also got our lovely, she don't want us to call her doctor, but we have to give it up because she's worked so hard. Dr. Precious Koche. I never know how to pronounce somebody's name. We've got our lovely counselor who does a lot of sort of counseling during the prison sessions and all that. He's explained at the back just now. And that's Mr. Orlando Hollingsworth. And also we got our lovely Daniel, who's obviously shared us his story and also being an expert in trying to encourage young people as well to step away from that sort of thing. So let's give it a round of applause again one more time for our panelists. And this is a session where we could actually ask all the questions and also gain informations, whether it be spiritual, physical, emotional, or from a very, very professional point of view. All right? So whenever you're ready, we could ask.
We'll also encourage those online to use the chat function. If you've got any questions you would like us to ask the panel, that would be great. My first question, actually, I want to ask Daniel. When you was going through what you was going through, you said you had people around you. Did anyone actually notice you were not yourself at any one point? Did anyone actually say, there's something wrong, what's up?
In general, no. Out of the 5 friends that I lived with, one of them did. And that's because he was more aware, but then I didn't really give off anything. I didn't share anything, which is what depression does. It segregates you and confines you from everyone else. So, no?
No. Because some people may think, oh, but it's my friend. I should have known. I should have, So was it that you intentionally didn't want them to know? Or was it people just didn't notice? Or what was it about you not giving off certain things to,
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Was it something you intentionally did so that people don't notice? Like, did you went out your way to hide that you were going through this thing? Or is just people naturally just didn't notice you change or do things differently?
Okay, from my experience and being around other people that have experienced it as well, what depression does mentally is it makes you feel like you're a burden to everyone else. So in terms of that, you just being, even if you're just sitting there, not talking or saying anything, it makes you feel like you're a burden to everyone around you. So the added effect of someone telling you, talk to someone, like open up to someone, the concept, it doesn't run through your head because it's like, I'm a burden already. Why would I want to now be an even bigger burden on someone else? So for people that have lost people, like I've lost 2 friends last year to suicide. So to people that think, oh, I should have known, I could have been there, I could have changed it. There's no way you can. Because depression doesn't allow that to happen. So never blame yourself. It's just, depression sucks, man. It just sucks.
Okay, thank you. That's a good comforting, I suppose, for some people who have had that kind of loss around them and they kind of blame themselves thinking, I should have known, why didn't I see? So thank you for that. So now to the rest of the panel now, at what point should people be thinking about seeking help and support if they are feeling that they're struggling?
I think I was just listening to Daniel then, and in relation to your second question about was it that Daniel intentionally tried to sort of prevent or hide how he was feeling from other people. And one of the things that I've sort of observed is that when people go through depression or anxiety or any mental health difficulty, is because of the stigma that's often associated with it, but also because of the pressure that we have. It's not a thing that's nice, is it? It's not something that it's frowned upon, to be unwell, especially when it's mentally. We feel ashamed, like, I should be well, I should be able to cope. Okay, what am I going to say is the reason for feeling this way? So there's loads of shame, there's sort of, there's guilt, and all these things that goes with feeling the way you feel.
Yeah.
And so people, for as long as they possibly can, try to mask how they feel because it's like, I feel ashamed I'm feeling low and depressed. I shouldn't feel this way. So you walk and you try and carry on as much as possible without letting slip. And unfortunately, it doesn't come to loved ones' attention until it's too late.
Kind of too late, yeah.
Or people are literally in hospital, they've been sectioned, and then it's like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
How's that happened? So that's one thing that sort of was going through my head. So in terms of recognizing, or when is a good time to ask for help, that's such a personal question. Because everyone's so different. You have that resilience, and it's sort of almost sort of counter what I just said. But everyone's so different, and our resilience levels are so different.
Yeah.
But often you know when you think, it's just a bit too much now because maybe your sleep is affected, or your appetite is affected, or you're just not enjoying things like you used to enjoy things.
Yeah.
It's like everything feels like an effort. Even sitting down and watching your favorite movie feels like an effort. Even something as simple as a movie or a meal isn't giving you the type of joy it used to give you because you feel so overwhelmed by everything that's happening around you. For me personally, that's when we're like, right, we need to put things down now and actually think about what's going on here. So that would be one of the things I'd say about that.
Okay, lovely. Does anyone else want to add to that?
I'll just say as soon as you can.
As soon as you can.
So it's going off what she said, that everyone has different levels of what they can handle.
Yeah.
So as soon as you can, it can prevent damage later on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Because what we do, go on.
And just at any point as well, because some people think, you know what, actually, I've gone through some of the signs, and you know what, actually, it's too late. You know, at any point, you can still, you know, try to access that help. Ask for someone for help if you can. Not precious. But kind of like at any point, because I have various clients from that will access it straight away. Some would literally, it's their parents that may put them forward and stuff like that. So at any point you can would be the best way. So as Precious said, everyone's got their different thresholds.
Yeah, lovely. Because we do know, like, especially in the black community, we tend to see people in clinic at the point of crisis, and we kind of need to get ahead of that and do more preventative work and try and encourage people to seek help as early as possible, as like you guys are alluding to, just to do that, to avoid
just a quick one for Orlando, just on the back of that, because you work obviously in the prison service, like you mentioned, on the back of NHS. With the, how often do they come to you for help, like the ladies? Do they come for help, or they come seeking, or they were pushed to, or how does it look in the...
Once again, it varies. So you've got also a mental health team in there as well. So you've got some people that will be, especially, you know, actually want help. Some people will self-harm as a result of them crying out for help. Because they don't get that attention. Or what happens as well, which I find in working, is some of the officers get numb to it. So it's all like, you know, actually, it's that person again. You know, actually, there's nothing wrong. So, you know, some people have the signs, but as he said, like I think Daniel alluded to with one of his friends, working with some of my clients, I start to see signs because I start to get to know them. I know, you know, actually, this is presenting, this is something different, what they're doing, and then trying to help them to explore that. So it varies. It really varies. I can't say it's a specific thing, but as I said, it just varies.
So if we just do a quick round from your knowledge and your expertise, are there signs that we can look out for to know that someone's not quite okay?
Can I just ask a question though? With that,
Pastor,
I would really love, in a sense, to understand in a pastor's role, because I know it's probably different from what we may know in a clinical way. So I think that'd be very interesting to...
Right, okay. Thank you very much. What I love about the Bible is how the Bible is balanced with regards to the issue about mental health. And when Daniel was saying the other time about his mom saying, where is it in the Bible? You know, if he had said, oh, I couldn't find it, I would have stood up and probably just dragged him off the stage and said, you're so lazy, why didn't you find that? Because oftentimes, you know, when we refer to Christ as the rock that is higher than I, we often don't understand the context behind that. When David actually used that scripture in Psalm 61, that says, he started by saying, hear my cry, O God. He was in a dark place at that time. And it said, attend to my prayer. From the ends of the earth David wasn't in Pluto or in uranium or anything. He was on earth. But when he said, from the ends of the earth will I cry to you, he was in a dark place. There was so much going on. His employer wanted to kill him. His son was after his life. So much was going on. And said, when my heart is overwhelmed. Now, that word is actually a place of depression. Now, they don't worship God like David does. I mean, they don't love God like David does. David was a guy who loved God. But David was also a man who knew when to acknowledge that there was a problem. And said, when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Now, I think the place of the church is we do not, some of us have come through We've grown through the generation that used to believe that if you're claiming that you have mental health, it's because you don't have faith or because you don't believe in God. Probably, I think over time, we've come to understand the contextual truth behind some of the things that are written in the Bible. You find, for example, Paul told Timothy to pay attention to his health. He at some point, he said to Titus that we should pray for, I think it was one of his followers, said, we were comforted by that person recovering. That, in fact, that they almost lost hope. So I think the problem with the church is some of us have been brought from a place where, we misquote the scripture that says, let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich. We misquote that. And we often think it is anathema to actually affirm that I'm not feeling well in the church. It shows that probably my faith is not strong. No. So the place of the church, which I believe is when you understood that things are not right, and I think part of the things what we're doing now is to create our awareness whereby it is okay to let people know I am not in the best of place. I've asked leaders to take time out of leading departments in this church. I've asked them to take 1 month off, take 2 months off so that they can recover. Because really, a wounded soldier is no use to the war. You need to take time out, recover, get better, and then come back. So the place of the church is not shutting down to, people thinking that, okay, I can't confidently talk about how I'm feeling. I think the place of the church is to actually understand, like when Elder John was saying to Gales, I wish above all things that you prosper 3D, body, soul, and spirit, right? You prosper even as your soul prospers, be in health as well. So it's a place where the church should let people, facilitate workshop like this. Also, you need to also remember that part of the thing, in fact, the highest level of the things that tends to cause depression for people is anxiety. The church must be practical Jesus, whereby if we are able to facilitate things that would help to give like palliative support for people, probably people will worry less and also let people be open to talk about it. And if I'm not in a position as a pastor, if I realize that, okay, counseling them that God has not given the spirit of fear, maybe there are other issues this person is dealing with. They might have been abused by people they loved. They might be going through issues that, some people, you're dealing with someone who's struggling about addiction. You can't just say to them, go and be healed in Jesus' name. Let's know what was the root of this problem. Because once we understood the root of this problem, it's much easier to say, Lord, this is the root of this problem. Let's deal with it. And then we pray that this person receive absolute healing. So the place of the church, facilitate openness about it, support the people about it, create awareness about it, and of course, not let people assume that the spiritual is not important when dealing with mental health.
Thank you. It kind of went off on one of the questions I had for Pastor, but Daniel, I'll go to you first. You wanted to say something in response to what Pastor was saying?
Yeah. I'm kind of, to not be too controversial, I have my own bone to pick with the church in general.
Come on, go on.
I believe going off of what Pastor was saying, just to sum it up, is I really hate cliche responses. So my belief is that there is the spiritual side, but there are also practical sides that work in unison with that.
Yeah.
Like in the word it says faith without works is dead, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I was dealing with my personal depression, I did go to the church as a sort of guide and leadership, and the response I got was go and pray.
Yeah.
Someone suffering with depression, they don't even want to say hi to their closest friends.
Yeah.
What makes you think they're going to pray? So I dislike responses like that. Like in that situation, I feel like the church in general should also come up with practical things to get that person to the stage where they can pray.
Yeah.
But before they get there, again, putting in those practical implications and pray on their behalf.
Yeah.
Then when they get there, then tell them go and pray.
Yeah.
So
Can I say something about that? I think God is our perfect example about how he deals with things like this. When Elijah, you actually talked about Elijah. When Elijah said, just kill me now. I'm worse than my fathers. I don't know which of his father called down fire from heaven. Said, kill me now. God didn't just say, how dare you with all the powers I've given you. The first thing, God just took the guy to McDonald's. Just put a bucket of KFC before him. Just eat, man. It's found out that especially in the church, a lot of people died before their time because they didn't understand how to fast. Yeah. And some people, because they were fasting, I'm a believer of fasting. A lot of people, because they were fasting and they were not fasting with wisdom, have created unnecessary problem with themselves, whereby when you're going through challenging times, sometimes you need to do what gives you joy rather than what kills your flesh. So there is a place of wisdom. So I understood where you're coming from, and I apologize on behalf of the church that we let you down. But I think now the Bible says, I believe that wisdom is increasing. People are understanding better. And that's why I said there is awareness being created now. So if someone comes to me and says, this is how I'm feeling, I'm not just going to say, where is the place of your faith? I want to know, first of all, how did you arrive here? So let's try and kind of backtrack. It's like a reverse engineering of how you got to this place. Let's try and go back. How did we get to this place? Because I could go on and on and on and try to counsel someone to come out of a particular habit when probably this thing went as far back as when they were 6 years old. So if we don't trace this, so I think right now, more than ever before, I've just even read an article from Evangelical Alliance by a lady called Helen Cook. They're trying to create openness about this. They're encouraging people to come out and speak about how they're feeling. And I think the church is now getting to the place whereby it's not when I was growing up. I'm 47 now. It's not when I was growing up, whereby if you claim that you have headache, they think that you don't have faith. You have to say, my enemy has headache. I don't know whether it's your enemy that is using paracetamol. You still say your enemy has headache.
It's a running joke in the house.
Exactly.
So, my enemy is tired.
Exactly. And this is the thing. God does not see us less by us saying, this is what I'm going through. Yeah. So we say, this is what I'm going through. However, I believe you are able.
Yes.
So I think now there's that open. I understand probably there's been that place of cliche for a very long time.
Yes.
But I think the church is kind of wising up now that the generation we have now is not the generation that just take that and just go. No.
Yeah.
They will ask you questions.
Yeah.
So I think things are getting better.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree. And I think this certainly, to just add to the end of that, Pastor, is our role in that as well. I think for the longest of time, churches, it was very, so my training, for example, it was so split. Anyone who studied Orlando, I'm sure you know that psychology and faith, they think they're polar opposites. They literally think that faith is over there, psychology is over there. Psychology thinks faith is anti-science and all of this, and they don't think they mix, whereas they actually come alongside so well. And I think in recent years, we've actually started to open our eyes to see that it doesn't need to be either you have faith or you believe in medicine or you believe in talking therapy, that actually both of them are very, very compatible. Yeah. And I think it's also down to us to actually, in our churches, in our faith communities, to bring that awareness. Sometimes, depending on the church you go to, if it's an older generation where it's a generation where you pray about everything, and we do, whether or not we like it, we still do have this generation where literally prayer is the way. I think my mom's part of that generation. She pray about everything. And that's great, but it needs to be that end alongside. Okay, so we've prayed, let's sit down, let's think about what is this about? And it's also about us calling out to say, actually, that's really great. I can't pray right now, and I value you praying for me, but I'd like to talk about this. Can we talk about this? Or can you go and read up about this, actually? I think it's for us to really try and push it into the church consciousness where we can. It's not always possible to do it, because when you're weak or you're broken, you don't want to then have to be the one bringing something into the church that you need. But I do think when we're in a good healthier place, that is certainly that we can try and infuse into our church. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's our responsibilities as well as the church responsibility to really try to build that understanding around mental health and mental wellness.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. There's a few things that's popping up, culture, and I like that. We're now getting wisdom in the church to to help. There's a question online.
Yes, there's a question for myself actually.
Online.
So I'm loving the discussion and talking about the place, the role the church is playing in this day and age. So my question is, would it be a good idea for the church to have like a specific day, or just to have like an open door policy for people to come and just pour out their heart, to speak? I mean,
so that question I was going to ask Pastor Orlando, and yourself has now kind of jumped in. So it was a question for Pastor Wall. I was going to say, what role can the faith community play in encouraging individuals to engage with services and seek help? And also, what is EP doing? We're here right now, so what else is EP doing?
Thank you.
Right.
I think I think what the church can do. We started out from the place of openness. Now, I don't want us to assume that there is no place of faith in this. For example, you were talking about psychology. I teach sociology as well. And every now and then, because of my students, some of my A-level students do psychology, so they ask certain questions. And then because they know my faith background, I had to put on the hat of both a believer and a sociologist and so on. There has to be the place where the awareness is created. And more than ever before now, I believe a lot of Christian consultants are speaking up now.
Yes.
At least I have about 2 or 3 friends who are clinical psychologists now, or consultants who, during lockdown, they were doing different sessions on mental health, the importance of mental health. When they even saw what we're doing today, they were giving thumbs up to say, fantastic. So I think more than ever now, believers who are in that industry are speaking up to let people understand. So I think we're better than where we were about 10, 20 years ago. And as a church, where I said I don't want us to neglect the place of faith is this: I don't want us to attribute mental health problems to only external, stimulus. I don't want us to assume that they're only caused by internal things or just emotional things. There's also the place of spiritual with mental health. So there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
So, however, acknowledging that things around like anxiety and so on, internal turmoil and so on, could cause that addiction. And sometimes some of these things just even happen without you even knowing why.
Yeah.
So this is where, when you've tried to explore and the person can't even figure out why, you try to do diagnosis and you don't even know what's going on, you put on the place of the spiritual.
Yes.
Bearing in mind, Isaiah 26 verse 3 says, I will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed upon me. So you need to understand that. Then you understand what Paul talked about, pulling down the stronghold, casting down imaginations. So there has to be that place. So as a church, what we're trying to do is, first of all, after taking time to understand what's the person going through. There's been so many people that my wife had taken time to talk to. Some of them might be because they've been made redundant, and suddenly they found themselves struggling to be able to meet day-to-day needs. And that has led to a place where they found themselves spiraling out of control and finding themselves in a place that they didn't intend to go. And so she then would take time to say, okay, let's try and talk about this. And I think there are other people within the church as well. So as a church, this is one of few and many that we intend to actually start doing to allow people to be able to address that. But we're also aware that there is a place of spiritual where you know that these things are not just ordinary, and you address them in place of spiritual, but not ignoring how to do due diligence with regards to being practical about this and referring to people, to specialists, when it is necessary to refer them to specialists.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I'm aware we didn't answer the first question. Were you going to say that?
No. I was come up back and
Yeah.
Pastor. Okay, so I'll say the other thing, just to add to you, Pastor, I think one of the things because I've got through trainee counsellors, one of the things I always say to them, they are the biggest tool. And I think even within the church, at the basic level, is about relational. And I think this is what's also coming back into the church, is that building up those relationships, because we could go have church, come, whatever time, What's the standard greeting? Blessed and highly favoured. I'm blessed and highly favoured. But how much people ask about more about that? Actually, what does that look like for you? And building those relations again. So I think that is at the basic level what the church, and it's not just a building. We are called to be the church. So we are called individuals within our sphere of various people. So the people that Daniel's going to influence, I may never meet them in my life. But because he may befriend them, there's certain things that he could pick up on, and as he said, Pastor, refer them to the right people. Times of prayer, times of it works together. As Precious said, they both work together. So I just want to highlight that we all can have a part in, actually being our brothers' keepers.
Yes.
Sorry, Precious. She talked about the first question.
Was that the signs and symptoms?
Yeah.
Is that one?
Sorry. If
just
we're going to look at the signs.
What are the signs that people can look at, red flags, as people say it now?
One of the ones that really stick out for me is tiredness. Like consistent, persistent tiredness. You're tired every single day, week in and week out, and week in and week out. I think I can put my hands up for that, because it's something I can relate to. And when you're constantly saying, I'm tired every day, every week, I'm tired, you have to start thinking, okay, so why am I so tired all of the time? All of the time. So that could be something that sort of causes you to, hold on, let me pause and have a think what's going on here. Because sometimes it's not actually physical. You might think that actually you've gone through your day, so actually I can't pinpoint what it is that I've done that's so physically draining, and I feel tired. And then you have to think, okay, mentally, am I doing too much? Do I need to have a break? So those are sort of early signs, because if you're able to stop at that point where you're constantly tired, say, okay, so I need to book in annual leave, or I'm going to finish work a bit earlier today, or I'm going to have an early night, and you allow your body to recuperate and your mind to recuperate, you might actually find that, I don't feel as tired 2 days later or 3 days later. So for me, that sort of persistent, ongoing tiredness would be one to really look out for.
You need to advise pastors about that.
I mean, just to tie on that, I think my biggest sign is feeling overwhelmed. I'm not talking about overwhelming my work, I'm talking about overwhelming my own stuff that I need to do. So it's really weird. I can prioritize other people, be in this place of helping people. I love it. Love it to the bone. I got that from my mum. I love it. I got all day long. But when it comes to myself, I'm like, actually, I feel overwhelmed. Just to fill out a CV. Just fill out a CV. I'm like, oh my gosh. I say to my wife, oh my gosh. My wife is like, look, just fill out a CV. I'm like, where do I start? What do I do? And that's where, even with that, then I start actually regressing and actually like, you know what? I don't want to be around and stop doing the things that I like, and like literally I start regressing, and like I have to really check myself, or someone challenges me, actually what's really going on. So I think for me, feeling overwhelmed is another sign that of depression, which can lead to depression or further depression.
Snapping at people as well, like people that you like, just being really quick to snap.
Short,
just really short. Normally you're someone who's quite patient, and it takes a lot to get. All of a sudden you find, but I told you this, and I just snapping. Even at your kids and people who you actually love and care about. I think that you say, actually I'm being quite snappy, quite regular, and for no reason as well, because it could just be that they just say, "Mummy, can I?" Before they've even finished saying, "Mummy, can I?" What do you want? Leave me alone.
I said no.
I said no already, and they haven't even asked me the question, and I'm already, So thinking about when you're quite short, pause. What's going on? Or if you just can't be bothered to do anything, you don't have any interest to go out.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Lack of interest.
When you just find everything just long, Even the stuff that you love doing, like for example, I love sports and I can't be bothered to go training. That's a big red flag. Not being bothered to do anything.
That's a big one. Yeah, that is a big one. Lack of interest of even the things that you enjoy and stuff. So yeah, that's a good one.
So I'm just thinking, question. Young people, I mean, like when you're still young.
I hope so.
Somewhat.
I hope so.
And he tried to look at me as well.
He was like,
Okay. I'm just guessing, how can you reach more young people? Because a lot of young people these days, they feel depressed. Some of them are depressed, but they don't speak out. Especially boys don't like speaking out. Ask them something, I'm okay, that's it. You try to probe, but they're not giving you more. So how can we sort of unravel that?
So I have two answers. The first one, like I said before, it's the culture. And it starts from power bases. So home is a power base and church is a power base. I find, again, I don't want to,
Oh, bring it on. I can take
Pastor's
it.
ready.
Oh, bring it on.
I find traditional churches, for example, I can use my own church as an example. We've lost so many youth to other churches because the stuff that is preached and taught about is not centered around what youth are going through. So, for example, a lesson will be on marriage, but you're preaching to 16-year-olds that are going through temptation in terms of their bodies and fraud and all that sort of stuff, but you're not tailoring the sermon to them. So what they're doing is they're losing interest. So what happened in my church is it was split into two segments in the main hall. So at the front, all the parents would be there with their gele,
typical,
all that sort of stuff. And all the kids would be at the back on their phones,
not
focusing on the word. Because you're not, what my church did, I'm not bashing my church in it, like God knows my heart.
Be careful, your mom is watching.
What my church did is they took away this thing we used to have called Crusaders. Which was the in-between Sunday school and the main congregation. Crusaders was a way to prepare you. So once you hit 16, once you hit 11, you graduated from Sunday school and you went to Crusaders until you were 16. Within Crusaders, you were taught about
all the
stuff.
various.
But the church decided to take that away through no fault of their own. But they never then
replaced it.
So and I believe that the youth were actually screaming, saying, okay, so in our church we had first and second service. So the first service is the one that's popping. It's popping.
10 a.m.
Everybody was there. 10 a.m. to 12. Sweet. Second service, the youth were like, no one goes to that. Let us have that. And the leaders would not listen. So you've got a church of 200 seats and only 3 are filled for the afternoon. But the youth are saying, we don't really want to come to the morning. It's not directed at us. Let us have the second service. So you have youth that actually were pushing, no adult instigation, no forcing, no nothing. They were on fire. They wanted it. After asking 5, 6, 7 years, up to a decade, a congregation of about 80 youth, you've got like 10 that go now.
Our postcode is SC90 1EF. If you're out there watching us from Mars, we love you. Please do come. If you want afternoon, if you want even, we'll give you. Just come.
But to be fair, Daniel,
which is good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to summarize my final point really quickly. As I said, it's really the culture. So what you decide to, how you decide to raise your children and what you make them feel comfortable with, even when they make mistakes, if you make them feel comfortable enough to come to you without being ridiculed and punished and just understanding, then you'll find out a lot more that then you would start to be able to notice. So it's just having that communion with them, which is what, and I'm not a parent, so I don't know how hard it is. I'm sure it is hard, but when you have your child and giving them money and feeding them, that's not where your investment stops. Your investment is still emotional, physical, you know, just
Spiritual,
the
whole
mindset
balance,
you
yeah.
prep them to have as they go out into the world. So a lot of parents will find that their children change after 18, but they haven't changed if you're actually paying attention and invested in what their mindset was.
Yeah.
Like, there's something that I said to my mom that shocked her to her very core. There was a time where she was complaining about what my little brother is doing on the computer all this time. He's always on the computer, he's always gaming. And I was like, Mum, have you actually sat down and asked him what it is that he's doing and taken an interest? So just because he's not doing law, a doctorate degree, or engineering,
or something,
you're not interested, and that's wrong. And then I also said to her, just randomly, not because he did something or whatever, when was the last time you actually said you loved him or you hugged him? Not because he did something as a reward, just because you love him. She couldn't answer because there was no time. So now I've noticed throughout the house, she's saying, "Oh, I love you, son." My little brother would be like, "Go away, I love you." So yeah,
I think with regards to how do we, I mean, you've aptly dealt with it. As a school teacher, I was recently asked by the head teacher to mentor a child. Of course, as a teacher, you mentor everyone, but specifically mentor this child who's from a really amazing family, but is going through a difficult time, and the parents couldn't reach him. Now, I believe that young people, they don't talk until they know they can trust you.
Yes, absolutely.
And if they can build that trust with you, you'll be shocked at how much they're willing to talk.
Yes.
So, as a teacher, I've gone from a place of where it's sir and I to a place of, okay, we know. And I think the one that really helped recently was my Instagram, my Snapchat video that went viral. I was speaking to like someone who's like a drill rapper. I didn't know. So I was evangelized. I was telling them to come to church. So they videoed me and they put it on Snap. My students saw it and they were laughing their heads off. And they were thinking I would be quite really, hard about it. And I was making myself the butt of the joke. And that broke down any form of hindrance. So we're able to talk. So I think young people, the best way to go about it is parents need to unlearn certain really weird parenting skills they used to have. Recently, just like what you were saying about your brother, my daughter was, I hope she will have issues with me when I get home now. My 12-year-old I was hearing something like on YouTube. I'm thinking, that doesn't sound like Bethel, doesn't sound like Hillsong, it must be demonic. And so I said, what is that? In my Nigerian accent, what is that you're listening to? Say, Dad, why are you shouting? Which, if this was Nigeria, I said, me? So, and she said, did you even bother to actually watch the song with me? And the song was Potato Head by Melanie Martinez or something. So it was Potato Head. And I said, okay, so we sat down together and we watched Potato Head together. It's got millions views on YouTube. And it was actually a song about someone who was going through identity crisis and how they were trying to fit into other people's description of what identity looks like. And how they realized finally that you will never please people if you're trying to identity shift to place them. Because there will always be something else that's newer than what you were trying to please. So when she finished, I thought, you know what? Despite the fact that I thought I'm modern, I still found that there's that element of tradition. So I think where we can go is parents. And I think pastors also need to talk about it from the pulpit. There's a need for parents to be reoriented. And I know that not quite long ago, Evangelical Alliance, they had a meeting where they invited what they call the think tanks, who were able to talk about what young people would like to hear in the church and how that will help them. There's another one coming up on the 8th of December. So I think is what's really happening.
I would like to take part in that.
Right, no problem. I'll let you
Also will share.
I suppose for me, coming back from a youth worker background as well, is transparency.
Yeah.
I think transparency is big because sometimes young people need to see that you're not perfect.
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've got this thing about intimacy. It's called Into Me You See.
Yeah.
So you get to see me, my flaws. And I think me growing up seeing people's flaws allow me to be real and actually, you know what, I've got some stuff that I need to go with. So my past allowed me to see a bit of him, and it's allowed me to say, you know what, this is what I'm struggling with. Because being a man, you've been taught to, you know, actually you should have everything locked down. You should have no emotions. You should be able to deal with everything, and you should be, you know what, actually just be at the top of your game all the time. And the reality is, we got feelings as well. The reality is, there's times when I just don't feel like doing it, or I can't do it, or I just want to cry out. And I think having that transparency allows young people just to see, you know, actually, this is someone that relates to me.
Yeah.
This is someone that hears my story and it sees
and
me.
it gets me,
Yeah. And just adding to all of that, because I think all the contributions you guys made have just been so on point and sound. The only thing I can add to that is language. Language has been going round and round in my head, and I think certainly when it comes to younger people, I'm young, but I am young.
I'm young.
And I feel like I've lost touch with the younger people. I think, you know, if I was to, even like my youngest brother, it feels like it's two different languages that we speak, because there's just so many slangs, and trying to understand, I was sort of just giving up on trying to keep up with the slangs. But I do think that there's something about language and something about allowing, and it interlinks and intermingles with culture as well. Allowing ourselves to sort of just let certain things down. I know that I've been indoctrinated into speaking in a particular way and carrying myself in a particular way. That's not always going to be welcomed amongst a group of young men who like to speak a certain way. And of course they should speak a certain way, because that's where they're at in their development and in their growth. And I think sometimes what we do is we shut it down. We think, we just shut them down because they sound a certain way, or they speak properly, articulate yourself properly. What do you mean? And I think it's being able to actually understand if, I don't know, I'm making stereotypes here. I don't know how a young person on the street, a young man might say how he's feeling. Might say, I'm not feeling it. With slang, I'm not feeling it, bruv. I don't know. See, I did say I was
Come on, Daniel. What would they say, Daniel?
Nah, you did. It'll give you that grace. Nah, you right.
Did I try small?
Nah, but you're along those lines, though.
Along those lines, yeah. And thinking about what does that really mean? Because I'm not feeling that. It might actually be quite deep. Okay, what are you not feeling? What's going on? And really going. So I think it's something about language. And just being able to sort of remove some of the barriers I think we put in place. Because, that's how you people talk street. I don't understand street. And then we just full stop.
Segregation,
I think it's just showing the youth that you care. I think that's what the disconnect is. They feel like no one cares. And I keep saying, especially men, because it's true. Men don't feel like they're cared about. That's just
care. You are cared about.
Yeah, we care about you.
We care about you.
I know that. I know for me, but all them out there.
All you men,
like,
I know that.
I just feel like the church has such a very, and I'm really sorry. The church has such a very, very important role to play, because it bridges the gap between age groups.
Yeah.
But I was speaking to my girlfriend about this, that I don't, actually, I will not say that still. But the church, I believe that sometimes even a leader preaching on a pulpit sometimes doesn't have the same effect as if you laid the church out like this and you had Q&As. And if you preached like this and allowed people to ask questions, like if you're talking, saying a sermon about relationships, and you might invite a young man to take my place, and you know, some of the youth at the back might be a bit more engaged because they see someone that represents them on stage. So you're still preaching, someone might have a question, you answer, then the youth will join in, and then I can answer, and then I can engage. And I believe that it will make the church a lot more enjoyable for all age groups, because then you realize that, okay, I'm not just on my phone now, I'm actually asking questions and I'm learning. And I can see that the Bible is still alive. It's not something that was written 4,000 years ago, because it's alive and is being applied to my life right now. And that's what the disconnect is. That's why youth have stopped coming to church, because well, there's nothing here for me. And it doesn't really reflect what's going on in my life. So why am I going to listen to someone that doesn't understand me? Someone that probably doesn't even care. Which is so far from the truth, because you can see that you've got people up here that care, that are hosting things like this. So that's why I'm saying sometimes
you could tell that Daniel's got a lot of passion for the youth in church.
We must invite him back to our next event.
It's just that sometimes, and this is something I struggled with, like to someone who also almost left Christianity, that it becomes a routine. It doesn't become a passion, which is what's missing in Christianity these days. It doesn't become a passion, it becomes more routine. And with routines, it slowly dies out because I don't care. So I'm just saying, sometimes if you switch it up, you can still have your pastor, you can still have your prophet, of course, give you that respect. But even if on a Sunday, the congregation comes in and they see church laid out like this, they'll be thinking, oh, what's going on? Like, I'm like, okay. Youth will come in and be like, rah, like, this is different. Like, okay, cool. And then they get excited for church, and then they'll tell their friends, oh, my church is different. Come and see this. Come and see this message. See how they organize this.
Do you want us to?
We need to wrap
because
up.
of time. Sorry.
I'm passionate about it.
Because of time.
But sorry.
Orlando, I know you
Just
got
say
yours.
Just one more point, I think.
If you make it quick for us.
What I'm hearing from Daniel as well is honesty. You know, one of the things I think I will share with Precious, Dr. Precious. The thing is, one of the things that we try to do is try to find their point of reference, because we can have our own unconscious bias, but if we don't understand a young person's point of reference, we're always coming from our own experience. And it's I suppose what we try to practice is actually, what is your experience? What does it look like through your eyes?
Yes.
Show me your world. And I think that honesty, saying that we don't know everything, is a massive thing for a young person. Because once again, it shows them that you're caring, you want to care about what I'm saying to you, or you want to understand what I'm saying to you, rather than, the classic one, I know what he's talking about. I'm guilty of that all the time, like, actually I don't.
We think we know, but we don't.
I do, but... all right, wrap up.
Fantastic. Look, it's been a pleasure. The one thing I would like to say last as well, according to youth, because a lot of youth are going through a lot of emotional distress, so much out there. And as Pastor knows, he's been on a drill video, in the background. He knows what's going on, even though he was out there evangelizing. But obviously, they were going through their own. The thing about it is that we need to take heed to not just youths, but everyone. Because when youths come home and you just say, how's school? School's okay. And they went upstairs. That's it. We don't ask them anything else. And that's poor. You sit down and if you chat, my daughter already know. She's like, you didn't ask me how school today. You didn't ask me this. You didn't ask me what did I eat. What I had for lunch. She knows because I make sure I do it. But it's not just that, but we find out even more words she used when she says, oh, my day was really good or fantastic. We're like, whoa, okay, what did you do, So again, it's like honesty, getting down to their level language-wise, and all these kind of stuff. It's not just youth we're talking about. We're talking about everyone. Husbands and wife, the same. Come here a second. Husband and wife, the same. When you come home, recognize these things, practice these things. I keep mentioning, I know she don't like me saying it, but we practice a culture that I tell her I love her almost every single day. Almost. Yeah, because when I say almost, sometimes I forget to do it. Come on, I'm a human being, right? But but the fact remains is that the fact remains, it's like what Daniel said. When he went through and he says, my mom didn't tell me, and I tell my daughter that as well. And she does it every single time. She'll just come up and give me a big hug or give her mom a big hug. I love you, mom. I love you, dad. Just like this. But because she sees us do it, and it becomes a mental satisfaction that is a positive action or give a positive reaction. And when she grows up older, she'll not look for a man that don't say that I don't love you. Or she'll kind of have these prospects. Do you understand what I mean? So, and I'm talking about behaviors. I'm talking about behaviors. Yes? Behaviors as well. Yeah, they're rushing me like, get on.
So there's a lot of
behavior.
things I've been picking up. Culture. I think we need to have another event where we really get down about culture and how that affects, because some of us are from certain backgrounds that our parents may have suffered certain mental health and we didn't know, and it's had an impact on us, and we didn't have the language or who to say, you know. And how do you then begin to have that conversation with a parent from a certain culture to be like, oh, I think you might, it's just not, so, yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like, you can't even, so I think we really do need to delve into that whole culture and how we start those kind of conversations. Shanique,
based on the, you know, the facts that you put up about children from this age
5 to
up
16
and stuff, and also giving children a chance to speak, because growing up we were told to be seen and not be heard. And me myself, I suffer from depression and anxiety, maybe more stuff, but that's what I know about now. And I battle a lot. Like I was meant to speak today, but I don't think I was able to, because I'm going through right now. I wasn't able to come and open up, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
And based on what Voke just said in regards to like culture and parents and stuff, it's a lot. And I didn't know that I was depressed until I think maybe giving birth. But again, when the next session comes, I'll go into details. Just speaking about children and as parents, what we do. For me, because of my situation, and as you mentioned, sometimes we snap at, he's the only one, basically. I live with him alone. So when I'm going through, like sometimes he'll be saying something and I'll snap before we even finish the question or statement. And then because he's an outspoken person, he'll be like, well, I wasn't going to say that. I was like, oh yeah, I feel so stupid. But I'm always shouting, you know, because I just feel that kind of feeling sometimes. And poor him, he's so affectionate, and I hate being touched. Even though I'm a mother, it's just even being touched by my son feel like, ugh. But I do love my child, you know. And I don't know what it is, thank God for Holy Spirit. But like the Spirit said to me, ask him, how does he feel when you do what you do? I'm like, and I did. And he's artistic, by the way, so he's more socially difficult. So I was thinking, would he know what to say? Would he be able to respond to me? And I was shocked, by the way. He did express himself, and his answer kind of slapped me so hard that I started to think before I react.
Yeah.
I still do sometimes, but if it's not 100, it's dropped to 50 or below, because I'm thinking it does affect him. Because I said to him, I said, are you happy with mommy? And he said, yeah. I said, no, are you really happy with mommy? Like, are you happy with the stuff that mommy do or say? And then he said, like he's afraid to answer me. And I'm thinking, you can answer, it's okay, you won't get in trouble. So I think he was afraid. So he was like, sometimes I'm not happy. So I was like, what are you not happy with? And that really breaks my heart, because as much as I'm a bit like tough macho person, I'm very emotional, you know, and caring. So I was like, I feel bad because I know what I felt growing up. So I didn't want that for my child. So I was like, hell no. And he said, sometimes. I said, why sometimes? What don't you like? And he's like, oh, I don't like when you shout at me. I don't like when you talk to me this way. I was like, So they're like, okay, well, mommy's sorry, but I shout or I get upset because when I speak, you don't listen, or if you do this, So I tell him what he does to make me get upset or for me to react that way, but not that I want to react that way. And so I said to him, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to listen when mommy speak, and if I do this, let me know, if that makes sense. And I tell you, like, as I said, sometimes my reaction is ready. And then I think, ooh, it's going to make him feel away. So he doesn't need to get smacked or nothing, because I just want to look, he knows the score. So it's like my tone of voice naturally is just aggressive. like, I'm Jamaican. And
it's passionate. It's passionate.
Very passionate. That's the one, darling.
Not aggressive, passionate.
That's the one. And so if I'm upset, it's going to sound worse, isn't it? So now I'm more mindful of what he said when I'm reacting. And when I do get to that place, I said to him, this is why mommy does this because, and then I'll apologize, but I let him know what you did was not right. So I'm not let him think it's okay to do it, but okay, I'm sorry that I did this because I realize it makes him upset. And so I'm mindful of his well-being and his mental state or how he feels when I do what I do. So just and back off what you guys were talking about, like it's important to give our kids the chance to speak. It's important to ask them the question every now and then, how is mommy doing? How is my discipline? How do I speak to you? Do you like it? Because they have a right, and yeah, just that. Like sometimes we need to be mindful of what we do as parents and how our behavior affects our kids, And I tell you, his reaction and his answer, like it really breaks my heart. One, but my friend always say, God sometimes break your heart to save your soul.
Yeah.
By breaking my heart that moment, it saved my soul and saved me a lifetime of heartbreak, if that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, as parents, whether it's single parent, couple parenting, whatever it is, like just be mindful and ask the question. Yeah. It's sometimes a scary question or, I am Jamaican or I'm African, so you are not to be heard. It's okay to give your children the chance to be heard.
Yeah, I was about to say, does anyone want?
Yes.
Sorry, just before. So, can we just go around real quick because of time, just to give advice to Shanique? You hear what she's saying.
Just anyone else who might be any similar.
Yes, just real quick, spiritually, and just go around.
I think what I believe also, coming from my experience as a school teacher, one of the things I think that I would love to do, and I think the church should do and continue to do, is to highlight the fact that it's not only children that has different learning challenges. When you started talking, you identify something that many people don't talk about in the church. You talked about his learning challenge, and when you say he's autistic, some people don't even want to say things like that. They say things like, don't label my child.
Yeah.
Right. I've had to speak to a Christian who came to terms with the fact that my child is autistic. They tested the child. They confirmed that the child was autistic and said, go and test the child. Is that what they've said? That's fine. There are styles. There are ways. There are learning ways by which the child can still excel. If your child is dyslexic, if your child is autistic, if your child was diagnosed with ADHD, and these things are not like your child is mad or something. But we talk about it with children, but we don't often recognize that adults have also got these things.
Absolutely.
A lot of adults are dyslexic. And so you have some wives or husbands who are OCDs. And you're wondering why you're fighting in the house. It's because you've not recognized that your wife is OCD. Yeah. And if you understood that, the battle is half won.
Yeah.
Now coming to the place of spiritual, I want us to also, as much as, yes, by all means, carry out the research, talked about this, be open about this. But I will round off by saying this, that the word of God work wonders.
Amen.
The more we ingest the word of God has the ability to keep us safe.
Yes.
The word of God has the ability to heal us from the inside.
Yes.
The word of God has the ability to keep us balanced, regardless of the things that's thrown at us by the situation all around us. And the Holy Spirit uses the word to keep us in a place of peace.
Yes.
Thank you, Pastor.
Amen.
Precious.
It's really difficult to follow that.
It's fine.
Really difficult. Pastor's got many hats on.
It's just the advice you could.
It's just I think I was hearing a lot of things actually when you were speaking about your experience, because I was hearing about you thinking about the impact that adults have and parents have on their children, and you wanting to curb that, and you wanting to give your child a positive experience, but also hearing that within that you have your own difficulties and challenges. And I think sometimes that's what gets excluded. I was saying to someone earlier on that I hear a lot of people say, oh, I need to be strong for my child, I need to be strong for my this person and that person. And one of the things I keep saying to people is, no, you need to be strong for yourself first. When you're on a plane and they're going through the health and safety measures, they say, put your own mask on first before you attend to someone else's mask. And I think, unfortunately, as parents, we just, it's auto drive, you know, autopilot. We just get into that autopilot of doing. We know that we're struggling, but you don't have a choice, especially if you're a single parent. You don't have a choice. You got to keep, no, I take that back. You do have a choice, but it feels like you don't have a choice. So you keep doing and going on autopilot and doing the things that you hate doing. So you speak and you shout and you snap and you hate it. You realize after you've done it, you want to take it back, but sometimes the ball's cracked, you know? The damage has been done sometimes. And so for me, I think it's something about definitely identifying support. I think we've mentioned support here and there, but it's so crucial to have support for yourself. Not just thinking about your child, but for yourself. Have a support system. And I've heard you say, sometimes actually you can't get that from family and close friends because they don't just understand. They're at different places. So sometimes it could be seeking professional support. There are loads of black organizations now who are offering therapy. Some of them are offering free therapy. Some of them are offering just support group. And it's not even about stigmatizing that or thinking there's something wrong with me. There's absolutely nothing wrong with putting your hands up to say, I'm tired of being strong. I've been strong for like all my life now. I just need to just sit down and stop being strong for everyone else and start working on myself. So for me, I think it's something about getting support structure around you that enables you to continue to be strong, so that it's easier to go into your home environment, easier to continue to be the wonderful mother that you want to be to your child, and that you can both thrive. So yeah, support for me is
Thank
what
you.
Thank you. I did say quick, but but
did you want to add, Orlando?
Oh,
yeah, let's go around. No.
No, do you want me to go?
No.
All right, no worries. 2 points. I think the first point is I love what you're doing because in the fact that you're Jesus done it, innit? He informed us that he loves the sinner but hates the sin. So you're identifying the behavior and differentiating that with your son, saying this is behavior that mummy doesn't like. It doesn't mean that mummy don't love you. Yeah? And the other thing which I use some of my clients as a guide is sometimes the love languages. It's a book. Just understanding how your son, because they're doing one for children. It's a guide. Remember, it's just a guide. Yeah, it's not.
It's not a Bible.
It's not a Bible.
But it helps you to understand how your son receives love. So as you understand that, and as he gets older, you teach him with your your style. It helps to bridge that gap sometimes with a miscommunication. So I think that's something that the others haven't spoken about, which I'm claiming for myself.
Thank you, Orlando.
All the best, Daniel.
Mine is short. If I repeat something, I'm really sorry. But number one is, and I'm getting my girlfriend into this mood of just giving yourself grace. And understanding that you're not perfect at all times. And it's okay because you're human. So just give yourself that grace. Number two, continue doing what you're doing. You said it yourself that you're at a percentage, 50% and below. It just takes practice. Just keep on doing it, keep on doing it, keep on doing it. And you realize that, again, that keyword culture, you will build that up to when it literally begins normal. And then your son as well, as God blesses him as he grows up, he'll pass that culture on to his kids as well.
Amen.
Thirdly, no, it's short.
Okay.
But at the same time, I've forgotten.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Fantastic. Like, guys, give a round of applause to the panel for their wonderful session.
Dammy.
Right, here we go. Oh, wow.
Key takeaways. No, it's fine. So it's more or less what we've been talking about. So remember to look after yourself. So important. Be intentional about it as well. And then also check in with yourself regularly, check in with your loved ones, and just be your brother's keeper that we've heard already. Is there anything else you guys feel that we've probably missed, key takeaways that you want someone to?
I remembered it.
Yeah.
Basically, my last advice to you is find something that makes you feel good as a mother. I feel like when mothers have their children, they sort of go into
it's all
just
the kids.
Child, just the kids.
Literally everything that they used to do growing up that gave them joy. Like, for example, I'm trying to get my girlfriend into volleyball. But basically, if for example, if she joined a volleyball team, that's another group that could potentially become your support group. And it's something that you enjoy doing, and it gives you something outside of work, kids, just something to look forward to during the week. So that's my last piece.
And that's if she likes. That's if you like volleyball.
I think
I really appreciate.
From my side, I think we've become quite detached from one another. The world is more and more just getting individually attached to the popular culture, and so I'm on my own. And so my word out there is, if there's a husband or a wife who's feeling like they're in a dark hole right now, you don't have to stay there. Just like Daniel said, find something you enjoy doing. Find people that you can talk to. It's not a weakness to admit that you're struggling.
Yes.
Find someone to speak to, and be willing to actually do not define your success by other people's success.
Yes.
Get ready to define your own success by your own definition of success. So find someone who you can work with. Find help group. Find people. Do something you enjoy doing.
Yes.
And sometimes the way we thought other people see us, it's not the way they see us, but a reflection of our own mindset.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that, guys, anything else to add?
Just that it's okay to say I need help.
Yeah.
It's okay to just say, I need help. And literally just, I need help.
Own it.
Full stop, I need help.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Next slide. Let's see. Let's quickly finish. Yeah, there you go. It's okay to rest, it's okay to stop, and it's okay to say no.
Say no.
Sometimes your own well-being is more important, because we talk about, Pastor talks about operating from a place of overflow. And if you are empty, you can't give anything. So always learn how to operate from a place of overflow. Give within so that you can then pour out.
Grind.
Yeah, so
Rest.
Next, I listened to Pastor's sermon.
Yeah, she did.
Next slide. Okay, so just a few signposting, because we are in Lambeth, so just a few places you can kind of connect with. Lambeth Talking Therapies, Together UK, Mind Lambeth and Southwark, Mental Health UK. There's a next slide as well. I've got some other useful resources, and if anyone do need this or want it, we can send it to them via email, talk to us, and we'll be able to signpost you guys. I think that's the last one, so go to the last slide, I think. Nope, no question. We've got
I think we've done fairly well with all the questions.
Wait, just one question. When is the next Be Brave event?
Oh,
when is the next?
This church service is tomorrow.
Church at 10:30.
Yes. You like the setting? We'll put it like this.
I just like, God is always ever moving, but he's stable in where he is.
We will talk afterwards, because God has revealed and shown me some things for that. But
Fantastic.
anyway, we'll talk afterwards. But listen, guys,
it's
was
been lovely.
A pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
I know we got a little bit empty. We didn't have because of the weather, but listen, you've been absolutely fantastic. The guys
online. It seems
online.
like we've got more work to do. We've got more events.
Yes, indeed.
More events coming up.
Amen.
Especially like these.
I've got feedback online, and someone saying, feedback from me. I enjoyed the workshop. I definitely found it insightful, as there were things I was familiar with and things I didn't know. The statistics and other remedies to help with identifying and dealing with your well-being and others. I particularly enjoyed hearing other people's stories. It touched me deeply for many reasons. also how one can support other people whilst they too are going through this period. Thank you for the session. It was great.
Fantastic.
Lovely.
That's lovely. And we would love to hear you guys' feedback as well.
Everyone's feedback.
Our handles are here. Lovely Vake is blocking it, but our social handles are here. If you do want to leave your feedback, please do. Let us know how we are progressing. Let us know how we're getting on, how you enjoyed the event, and so on and so forth. I know I'm talking quicker because time has vastly gone, but please do give us your feedback. It would be much appreciated. I think we do have feedback forms. If you want to fill one out now, we do have them if you want to do so. But listen, we appreciate you and we thank you. Get a person to come out next time physically so we could have a bit more interaction physically, not just online. For all the users online, come in and give us your feedback. We will hand over to Pastor to just to round up and close us off. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone who has joined us online. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to actually be able to confidently talk to one another. And we're very grateful for your word promises that your word will cause the wise to be wiser. And thank you for wisdom that is increasing. Thank you, Lord, for my sister and my brothers who have come to actually speak from a place of experience, from a place of wisdom, and from a place of knowledge. Thank you for everyone who has joined online and those who are here physically. And we thank you because right now there is no darkness in how we move forward from here, for we know light has come upon quite a lot of things. And we will operate from a place of knowledge, a place of wisdom, and a place of victory. We're very grateful, dear Lord, and we pray for those who might be going through a really dark situation right now. Your word promised that those who dwell in darkness have seen light. We know that it's not just spiritual light, but as many that are emotionally in a dark place, that you will cause them to see light of revival, that you will heal them. And unto those who dwell in the valley of the shadow of death, a great light has done. Wisdom is the beginning of healing. So we ask, dear Lord, that as wisdom is being released right now, that you will bring every one of us to a place of wholeness, a place of nothing missing, nothing broken. The grace of the Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now forevermore. Amen.